Chen followed the path and out of nowhere, a strange sound came from the walls. Following that, pellets began to fire. Chen agilely dodged, and the pellets landed on the walls, leaving behind white splotches. Chen instantly understood that this was a test of reaction speed. The mechanisms didn't contain any killing intent, but they did intentionally cause a noise just as they fired in order to reduce the difficulty. Chen shook his head. This kind of test was far too childish for him. Although his spiritual yuan was sealed, even without using spiritual strength, just the change in airflow when these pellets shot out was enough to make him easily dodge them. The further he went, the more concentrated the pellets. But they were completely unable to touch him. He then passed through the pellet channel, appearing in an exam hall. The examiner stared at Chen in shock. Looking him up and down, the examiner finally proclaimed, "You pass with full marks." The passing grade for this exam was based on how many pellets you were hit by. But Chen passed through without a single spot of white. The reason the examiner was shocked was because in this exam, a person's spiritual perception was suppressed, so they could only use the sound to react. Getting hit by 8 or fewer pellets was a pass. Hence, the examiner was truly stunned and automatically passed Chen with full marks. The next exam was actually a wooden puppet, and Chen was given a club. As long as the club struck the wooden puppet, its movements would cease. However, he would be entering an area with hundreds of those wooden puppets attacking at once. It was an overwhelming situation for most people who took the exam. After that, Chen's club danced through the air. As the examiner said, once it struck a puppet, the puppet's movements would come to a stop. The only difficulty was how to avoid getting hit by the wooden puppets in turn. It required not only speed but also sharp perception and the ability to make fast judgments. Chen laughed inside. It seemed that the immortal world was far too peaceful. This kind of trial wasn't worth anything to an expert like him who had walked out of countless life and death battles. It was unknown just how many big battles he had fought. He had brushed against death countless times, sharpening his instincts. Even with his spiritual yuan and divine sense suppressed, this trial was too easy for him. Those puppets quickly fell one by one. The only thing that surprised Chen was that these puppets were very sensitive. Although Chen had come into contact with puppets on the Martial Heaven continent, those were existences powered through formations. Their reactions were not as fast as these puppets, which seemed to possess their own minds. Chen easily passed through this section. When he arrived at the end, the next examiner's expression was just as amazed as the previous one. Chen had once more passed with full marks. After 3 trials, he appeared in a hall. This was where all the people who had passed the trials so far were gathered. The Big Chin Man was also here, astonished to see Chen arrive here as well. However, he then smiled sinisterly. He lowered his head and whispered to an examiner. Due to the great distance and his suppressed spiritual strength, Chen couldn't hear what he said. But Chen knew that he was definitely courting death. For him to be speaking to the examiner like this, they were clearly on the same side. The examiner eyed Chen and didn't say anything. This exam quickly started. Of the original 36 people, only 8 managed to reach this point. These 8 people were going to face off in 4 pairs. This was going to be a knockout competition. 4 people would be knocked out in the first round, and after 3 rounds, the winner would be decided. The ultimate winner would then be qualified to become the battle instructor. However, the second place in the finals wouldn't necessarily be rejected. They would be viewed as a candidate to become an instructor. If there was a short supply of instructors, they might be promoted. Unfortunately, if there were enough instructors, they would be neglected, and after 3 months, even those qualifications would be stripped away. They would need to take the exam again. Each person was given a wooden sword that was surprisingly heavy but had special runes on it to soften the blow. They were probably afraid of someone dying. After that, the examiner woodenly read off the rules for the competition. The general meaning was that it was not permitted to take another person's life during the trial. If someone intentionally killed someone, they would be severely punished. He also made clear the difference between first place and second place, encouraging everyone to do their best to win. There were 2 ways to admit defeat during battle. One was to speak and say that they admitted defeat, while another was to raise both hands. Once this method was used, the examiner would announce the end of the battle. If you were to intentionally injure someone after the examiner had announced that the battle was over, that would be an automatic loss. After a mass of rules were read off, they split up. Chen was surprised to see that his opponent wasn't the fellow with the big chin. Chen was confused, but the man facing the big-chinned fellow furiously cursed, "What blatant cheating! According to the sequence, I shouldn't be facing him in the first round. What nonsense are you spouting?" These matches were determined by drawing lots. "If you don't like it, you can withdraw from this competition and wait for the next exam," said the examiner coldly. "Drawing lots? How come none of us knew that? You arranged it yourselves just so that I wouldn't enter the finals. You're absolutely shameless. The competition in the God Institute should be above board, but you're just acting like petty, despicable people abusing your positions. You're disgracing the God Institute with your presence," cursed that person. Chen understood now. The two of them must have had previous hostility between them. That meant that this big-chinned fellow didn't just want first place, but he also wanted to knock out this person so that the latter couldn't even get second. He wanted to kick him out in the first round. The Pill Institute is trash, and now the God Institute is also full of corruption. Could it be that I am the only pure one in this world? Chen shook his head. This academy was full of chaos. "Shut up. You're the one who isn't strong enough. Scram, or in a bit, I'll beat you up like a dog," sneered the big-chinned fellow fearlessly. "All right. Just wait, we'll meet again." The man clenched his teeth and directly gave up. He knew that he wasn't a match for the big-chinned fellow. Only then did the big-chinned fellow turn his attention to Chen. "Brat, there's still time for you to scram." Chen ignored him and looked at his opponent. The opponent in front of him was covered in cold sweat, his face pale. "I admit defeat." This result was surprising to everyone. Furthermore, in the second round, Chen's opponent also directly admitted defeat, and the same thing happened to the big-chinned fellow. Following this, the only fight left was between Chen and the big-chinned fellow. Even the man who had left angrily and the other examiners came to watch. "Brat, you used money to buy them, didn't you? Hee, the Pill Institute's disciples really do have money. Too bad that you can't buy me. I'll knock your teeth out." The big-chinned fellow smiled sinisterly. Stamping on the ground, he charged head-on at Chen, slashing his sword at Chen's head. His divine energy fluctuations surged. "Your chin is ugly to me. However, my mood is good, so I'll fix it for you." Chen's sword whipped out like a bolt of lightning, knocking his sword aside. It then snaked out, striking his opponent's big chin. After that, the sound of bones breaking raised goosebumps. His chin was smashed apart by Chen's sword. It all happened so fast. In just the first clash, the big-chinned fellow's jaw was broken by Chen. The sound of bones breaking made people shiver. With a painful grunt, the big-chinned fellow tumbled to the ground. His head was dizzy. He had never imagined that a disciple of the Pill Institute would possess such power. Alchemists were similar to soul cultivators, so their physical bodies were their weakest aspect. Because of this, the big-chinned man had never viewed Chen as a real opponent. His view of Chen was that he was thin and weak. Hence, he didn't expect to be crushed in the first exchange. Chen then walked up to him while he was still befuddled and stamped his foot down twice, breaking that man's hands. His movements were sharp and ruthless. His foot then stamped onto his chest. As a result, the man hacked up blood, trying to struggle. But Chen's foot was like a mountain pressing down on him, making him unable to use any power. His face then turned purple as he was like a frog being crushed. He looked like he would explode at any moment. "You're ill. Your head is sick, and your jaw is also problematic. Let me help you fix them." Chen slapped the big-chinned man's broken jaw, and a bone flew out of it. Hence, the big-chinned man screamed, and blood gushed out from his mouth. All of a sudden, his chest caved in as his sternum was broken. "You're breaking the rules. Capture him." Only now did the examiner recover from his shock. With a furious roar, 8 teaching assistants attacked Chen with rods. After that, those rods whistled toward him. Scram! Long Chen's shout was thunderous. With a slash of his sword, those 8 rods were shattered, but his sword was also broken. The 8 of them were then sent flying, their hands bleeding. They could only stare in shock. Someone who possessed such a dense mortal chi actually possessed such power? It was like a barbarian dragon was hidden within his body. The examiner was also stunned. Long Chen kicked aside his opponent and then walked toward the examiner, causing his expression to change. What are you doing, Dash? He wasn't even done speaking before he was sent flying by a slap from Long Chen. He tumbled into the distance and smashed into the wall before he came to a stop. He then struggled to stand, only to cough up a mouthful of blood and faint. Brother, you've beaten an examiner. This is no small matter. Come with me. I'll find senior apprentice Sister Qingyun for you. She will help you, said the man who had been driven away by the big-chinned man. Long Chen was about to ask who this senior apprentice Sister Qingyun was when a cold snort came from the entrance. Does Mu Qingyun have the guts to do so? A group of people walked in. There were over 10 of them. They wore white robes, their divine energy fluctuations looking like burning flames around them. Their leader was a lean man with a sharp mouth and monkey cheeks. His face was gaunt, and his cheekbones were high, making him look like a monkey in clothes. He walked to the front with his chin raised arrogantly. Careful, this person is an expert on the divine rankings. Whatever they say, ignore it. I trust that senior apprentice Sister Qingyun will rush over soon as well, whispered that man. That's a bit difficult. Long Chen didn't know why this guy would help him or who this Qingyun was, but when it came to ignoring what these people said, that was probably impossible. However, he was growing more interested. These disciples were actually able to so openly and brazenly interfere with the exams, affecting the fairness of the academy. Did the God Institute really not care? Was it already rotten to the bone? You dare to ruin the exam and beat an examiner. Brat, you have guts. I like it. The lean man examined Long Chen and spoke indifferently. I'd ask you not to disgust me with this act. A human-looking monkey is quite vile to normal humans like me. Long Chen frowned. A snicker rang out from the distance. Long Chen looked over to see another group of white-robed God Institute disciples walking over. Their leader was a woman with a certain charm to her. She was beautiful but also possessed a cold majesty. Just from her looks, she appeared to be a powerful expert. Her expression was a bit off, as if she wanted to laugh but was bitterly enduring it. However, the 2 women beside her had already lost control. It seemed that they had never heard a similar kind of speaking style as Long Chen. Despite knowing that this wasn't the time to laugh, they couldn't hold back. Meanwhile, the money-like man's eyes blazed with fire. He was actually insulted by a brat who had just joined the academy, and it was in front of so many people. All of a sudden he extended a hand, his claw reaching for Long Chen's throat. In return, Long Chen's hand slapped across his face, and a palm image struck his chest, sending him flying into the distance. He collapsed. Long Chen and the woman stared at each other in surprise. Long Chen had attacked almost instinctively, striking that man in the face. But the woman's attack had arrived at almost the same time. She had clearly done it to save him. Meanwhile, the woman was shocked due to knowing just how shameless and vicious that skinny monkey man was. He had no qualms about attacking weaker people, so she had been prepared to interfere the instant he struck. However, Long Chen had somehow struck him first despite being attacked first. Furthermore, the power of his palm was so great that even without her attack, that monkey man wouldn't be able to injure him. Also, his attack had come completely naturally, like a flowing stream, amazing her. She walked up to Long Chen. What a beautiful technique. With your mortal aura, you must be an ascender. For you to have such a technique, you must have been an overlord in your lower world. I apologize, let me introduce myself. I am Mu Qingyun. I still don't know your name? Long Chen was about to answer when a sneer rang out. The mighty Mu Qingyun is actually lowering herself to a newcomer? Do you not have any confidence in the next competition for the rankings? How vile and laughable. Another group of people came walking over. The one at the front was a handsome man of a fair complexion. While holding a white paper fan in his hand, he swaggered over like a young lord. Regretfully, any air of nobility was broken by his smile, which looked like he needed a spanking. Long Chen didn't know how many people like this that he had killed. On the Martial Heaven continent, such people were originally present in plague proportions, but he had slaughtered them until they almost became a protected species. However, this species once more appeared in the High Firmament Academy in epidemic numbers. Would he need to start a new slaughter just like in the Martial Heaven continent? Mu Qingyun's side glared darkly at this man. One of them shouted, "Zhong Changxing, as the third-ranking expert, you actually randomly say such slanderous words? You don't live up to your reputation as an expert." This Zhong Changxing's aura was extremely powerful. Based on the divine energy fluctuations he gave off, Long Chen judged that he was around the same level as Mu Qingyun. While Mu Qingyun's people were filled with expressions of righteous indignation, Mu Qingyun herself didn't react much at all. Slander? The rank 2 Mu Qingyun actually lowered herself to run here to pull over a newcomer. Doesn't this prove you're already targeting outside experts? Have you lost confidence in the divine rankings competition? Zhong Changxing snapped his fan shut and walked over. Someone immediately took out a chair that he then sat on. Long Chen shook his head and sighed. He couldn't help recalling a certain memory from the Xiantian monastery. When they had been challenged by another monastery's disciples, Guoran had worked with him to set up a similar display. So many years had passed since then in no time at all. He was no longer that tender youth, so this person's actions appeared incredibly childish to him. Just how many years had it been since he had messed around with such a play? You're the one being so despicable that you actually interfered in this exam. He is nothing more than a surprise. If we still didn't hit back after you've repeatedly provoked us, we'd be beaten black and blue by you, wouldn't we? Raged that woman. Her anger showed that the conflict between the two sides was not a matter of just 1 or 2 days. At the same time, Long Chen understood that the Big Chin fellow had been targeting one of Mu Qingyun's people, making him fail so that he couldn't even get second place. This Zhong Changxing had to be the real instigator behind this matter. It seemed that Mu Qingyun had finally lost patience and was preparing to fight back this time, but then Long Chen appeared. However, what Long Chen didn't know was that amongst the examiners for this exam, while some belonged to Zhong Changxing's side, some also belonged to Mu Qingyun. Mu Qingyun had received word that not only was the other side cheating to harm her people, but an astonishing figure had appeared, passing through the exams with full marks. Mu Qingyun had then rushed over to help her side and also see whether she could pull Long Chen to her side. However, she had arrived one step too late. Long Chen had already knocked his opponent down, which meant that she had failed to arrive at the critical time to help him, not managing to make him owe her a favor. Despite that, helping Long Chen handle the aftermath could also give him a good impression and pull him to her side. Thus, she and Zhong Changxing were fighting. The only thing that Long Chen found curious was that despite this clearly being an official examination, no one from the actual core of the God Institute's management came. How was it that when 2 gangs of disciples appeared, no one came to control things? The God Institute's management was even worse than the Pill Institute's. Zhong Changxing slowly fanned himself as he sat in the chair. Ignoring that woman's words, he looked at Long Chen. "Little fellow, I'll give you 2 paths. Either kowtow and apologize to our people or join us." Mu Qingyun frowned. The other side had also received information, which was why they had rushed over so quickly. They were also planning on pulling in Long Chen. However, she then sneered, while the woman beside her grew anxious. Half their goal in coming here was Long Chen. If he was pulled away by Zhong Changxing, that would be a giant humiliation for them. Before she could speak, Mu Qingyun raised her hand, telling her to be quiet. She was ranked 2 on the divine rankings. She had seen and experienced countless people. Hence, she instantly saw through Long Chen's character and knew what his reply would be. As she expected, Long Chen said, "Thank you for giving me 2 options." Zhong Changxing smiled, thinking that Long Chen was submitting since he thanked him. He was about to praise his intelligence when Long Chen continued. "However, I can only give you one suggestion. You should change your name. From the mortal world to the immortal world, I've encountered quite a few people called Changxing. However, they never lived long lives. Instead, they died after messing around. Your name isn't auspicious. You. Zhong Changxing's face turned dark. This sudden turn knocked his pleased smile off of his face. The woman beside Mu Qingyun could barely contain her mirth at this response. She covered her mouth with both hands, but her shoulders quivered. Mu Qingyun and the others also found it funny. Long Chen looked completely serious when he said this. As a result, Zhong Changxing's fury soared even more at this silent laughter. Kill him. As soon as he spoke, a dark-faced fellow behind him immediately charged out, his hand reaching toward Long Chen's head. His fingers were like iron claws, and he was as quick as lightning, vicious. This person was a true expert. At this moment, a sharp light flickered over his fingernails. If a head was grasped by this hand, it would surely be crushed by this killing move. Upon seeing this, Mu Qingyun's expression completely changed. She hadn't expected this person to dare to launch a killing move. If he did kill Long Chen, she would also be slightly implicated. By the time she reacted, she was too late. Even as she moved, that person already arrived in front of Long Chen. Hence, she prayed that Long Chen could block this attack. If he was only injured, she could save him. However, just as she moved, before her palm touched that person, his body suddenly turned stiff. A sword had stabbed through his left eye and out the back of his head. He was already dead. As for the sword, it was in Long Chen's hand. For a moment, everyone was deathly silent. Long Chen's movements were too quick for them to even track with their eyes. They only saw a sword pierce that person's head and kill him. Mu Qingyun's attempt to rush over ended up meaningless. The battle had ended before it even started. Blood slowly dripped down that sword. Just as it was about to touch Long Chen's hand, he let go of the sword. Without anything holding it up, the corpse fell to the ground with a plunk. The sound wasn't loud, but it shook people's hearts like a hammer. That was an expert ranked 97th on the divine rankings. He was called the Iron Claw Soul Snatcher, a former rogue cultivator who had built up quite a reputation for himself before joining the High Firmament Academy. This person was a vicious, ruthless killer. When he attacked, his opponents were always killed or crippled. Due to his viciousness, he was highly viewed by Zhong Changxing. He was someone who only took orders from Zhong Changxing. When Zhong Changxing had told someone to kill Long Chen, he had attacked without hesitation. Regretfully, when it came to killing people, Long Chen was the true master. If they were competing in martial arts, perhaps Long Chen would require some effort to knock him down. But if Long Chen wanted to kill him, it was as easy as raising his hand. Everyone was dumbfounded, especially those two women beside Mu Qingyun. Their smiles were completely frozen. Long Chen had given them a sunshiny, unbending kind of impression. He was like a proud man who would rather break than bend. But with his seemingly weak appearance, they also formed an urge to protect him. However, no one had expected him to kill his opponent in a single move. Most stunning of all was his expression after killing. Although the two women were also cultivators, they had not experienced much killing. They had seen others kill. But those people always sneered or acted arrogant after killing their opponents. That arrogance was to cover up their nervousness inside. However, Long Chen's expression was flat, without the slightest fluctuation. It was as if he had just done something completely insignificant. That coldness made them shiver. At this moment, another sword appeared in Long Chen's hand, and he walked toward Zhong Changxing, his face still icy. Upon seeing this, Zhong Changxing's heart thumped, and his hair stood on end. He felt like a monster had just set its sights on him. A feeling of mortal danger welled up within him, causing him to jump out of his chair and retreat a few steps. However, after a few steps, his expression became ugly. He was an expert in the divine flame realm. Was he actually afraid of a rookie in the mortal transcendence realm? In front of everyone, he had been scared away by Long Chen. As all his face was lost, his embarrassment transformed into anger. Courting death. Zhong Changxing howled and his divine energy erupted. With him as the core, the disciples around him were blasted away. This chi wave blew back Long Chen's hair, flapping his robes. All of a sudden, Long Chen frowned and looked at his robes. He paused. Seeing him stop, Zhong Changxing thought that Long Chen was scared by his power, and he stepped forward, smashing a fist at him. Boom! Just at that moment, a palm image blocked his fist, unleashing a shockwave that made the entire palace shake. Mu Qingyun had taken action. She forced back Zhong Changxing and then appeared in front of Long Chen. Although her aura seemed to be on the same level as her opponents, when they fought, the difference was instantly made obvious. Zhong Changxing, you are too shameless. You are bullying someone with such dense mortal chi? To be on the same ranking as you is an insult to me, said Mu Qingyun coldly. At the same time, Mu Qingyun sighed with relief. She had finally managed to help Long Chen. Although she didn't know why Long Chen would suddenly pause like that, it just so happened that this was the best time for her to take action. Zhong Changxing was forced back several steps, feeling shocked and enraged. He had previously fought against Mu Qingyun a few months ago, but now he found that her divine flame had been purified even more, reaching an almost essence-like level. Although he always lost against her, he always managed to fight 20 or 30 exchanges before being defeated. However, today, he found that the difference between them had widened. His blood was flipping inside of him, and he didn't dare to open his mouth at the moment, for fear of coughing up blood. Why aren't you speaking? Have you realized that you were in the wrong now? You can't even find a way to retort, isn't that right? Shouted one of the women beside Mu Qingyun. You! Zhong Changxing was infuriated, but that one word caused his blood to surge up. He hastily clamped his mouth shut. What you? Your Prime Glory Alliance suppressed all newcomers and other competition when you were dominating. What? Are others not allowed to mention all the terrible things you've done? Sneered the woman. Her mouth was quite sharp. Zhong Changxing clenched his teeth and had to wait until his blood stabilized before speaking. Hence, his face was ashen, almost frighteningly so. As for the people beside him, they didn't know what was going on with him, but they didn't dare to interject themselves into this matter. Zhong Changxing was a very domineering person. If someone interrupted him, it was considered a sin. So none of his people spoke up. Suddenly, footsteps rang out and countless disciples in blue robes came rushing in. They had wooden rods in their hands. In just a moment, hundreds of them had surrounded this place. No need to worry. These are law enforcement disciples. We just have to follow the process, explained Mu Qingyun quietly to the surprised Long Chen. Mu Qingyun was very familiar with the God Institute's rules. These disciples had gotten used to their fighting, so they almost seemed bored with what they were doing. Everyone, come along. The head disciple didn't make things hard on them. He spoke woodenly. These disciples were clearly afraid of Zhong Changxing and Mu Qingyun's status, so they didn't dare to be rude. In this aspect, they were far better than the Pill Institute's law enforcement disciples. Everyone was brought along, and Long Chen was surprised to be brought into a courtroom. However, Mu Qingyun and the others seemed relaxed, as if this was routine for them. They were completely indifferent as they followed the process. The sharp-tongued woman even said a few comforting words to Long Chen, telling him not to be afraid. This matter was provoked by the other side, so the majority of the blame would fall on them. However, just as she was comforting him, everyone fell silent. An ancient and skinny elder had walked in. Upon seeing that elder, Mu Qingyun and the others, who were originally filled with confidence, became dumbfounded. How can it be him? Now it's troublesome. Mu Qingyun's expression twitched. What? Is this old fellow your enemy? Asked Long Chen. Who is Long Chen? Stand up. Just at this moment, the ancient elder slammed his gavel and shouted. Who are you? Is the name Long Chen something that you can shout? Long Chen's lazy voice echoed through the courtroom, dumbfounding everyone. Even Mu Qingyun and the others stared at him in shock as though he was a madman. This response from Long Chen stunned everyone. However, Zhong Changxing and the others were delighted to hear such a thing. In their eyes, Long Chen was definitely dead now, and there was no need for them to even add anything. Long Chen. Mu Qingyun hastily pulled on Long Chen. This elder before them was fond of physical discipline. He was a stubborn old man who could not be offended. That was even more the case today. For him to appear today was thought-provoking. It was very likely that he had come to nitpick, and Long Chen had thrown himself at him. "Ignorant junior, you are looking down on the court. Someone bring him away." The elder waved his hand. Some law enforcement disciples immediately stepped forward. "You are not qualified to give a ruling to the Pill Institute's disciples," said Long Chen indifferently. "Nonsense. Let alone a little probationary disciple, even a formal disciple of the Pill Institute would have to obediently submit to my ruling here. Bring him away and give him 50 lashes of the rod," proclaimed the elder. "This is not your business. Don't come over if you don't want to die," said Long Chen coldly, and his killing intent filled the room. As a result, all the experts in the room involuntarily shivered. The disciples stepping forward instantly froze in place, not daring to move. They smelled death. What they were facing was not a disciple of the Pill Institute but a devil who murdered without batting an eye. Long Chen stepped forward, going through everyone toward the elder. Hence, the elder stared at him in astonishment. He had never seen someone with such terrifying killing intent. "Little fellow you," the elder was also frozen in fear. He didn't even get to finish speaking before he was slapped in the face by Long Chen. He spun back. "What?" The disciple's eyes almost popped out. Long Chen dared to beat this elder? Was he mad? The elder wasn't even on guard, and stars spun in his eyes. He felt the world spinning around him. He almost fainted. Suddenly he let out a furious cry and divine energy exploded out of his body. Divine flames burned around him. However, those divine flames had just appeared before they were extinguished by a stamp of the foot. After that, the tip of a sword was less than half an inch from his eyes. Long Chen held the other end of the sword. "Don't think that your higher cultivation base protects you. A coward who has never entered the battlefield in their entire life can be killed easily by me." Long Chen had already seen that despite the higher cultivation bases of these people, the High Firmament Academy's so-called experts were nothing more than greenhouse flowers without any true ability. "You brazen brat. Do you know dash?" Long Chen slapped him before he was done speaking. After that, the elder was furious and about to attack back when pain stabbed through his eyelid. Long Chen had pierced his sword through his eyelid. Hence, blood began to flow and the elder instantly froze. "Are you a pig? I wasn't done speaking." "Who let you talk?" asked Long Chen. The elder felt a mix of shock and anger, thinking that this youth in front of him was a devil. His powerful cultivation base was completely suppressed by Long Chen, and his life was in Long Chen's hands. Furthermore, Long Chen's icy expression terrified him. He had no doubt that Long Chen really would kill him. To Long Chen, killing people could be done without hesitation. "I told you that you weren't qualified to judge me. Take a good look at this status plate of mine. If your eyes aren't blind, you should see that it says full marks." Such a status plate has only appeared twice throughout the entire history of the Pill Institute. Those were incidents that occurred 13,000 years ago. As for mine, this is the third. This status plate was personally given to me by 7-star Elder He Ziyu. Due to beating an instructor in the Pill Institute, I was deducted some benefits. Senior He Ziyu then lent me some money, telling me to take the test to become an instructor so I can make up for those lost benefits. But I didn't expect that your God Institute would be hiding such corruption. Just a minor instructor exam had blatant cheating with collusion on all sides. It's completely lawless. Then there were even people who launched killing blows against me. As for you, you old bastard, you didn't even give me any chance to show you this status of mine before trying to give me corporal punishment? Tell me, do you want to die? Snorted Long Chen. Long Chen's words resounded throughout the court, leaving people dumbfounded. They looked at Long Chen's status plate. They all understood what this meant. He had passed the exam with full marks. If that occurred in a different institute, it wouldn't be so shocking. Although it was rare, there were always a few such occurrences every year. However, when it came to the Pill Institute, they couldn't recall anyone managing to pass with full marks in many years. Upon hearing Long Chen's explanation, everyone's hearts shook. It seemed that Long Chen possessed quite a powerful background. He beat up an instructor and only had some benefits taken away? The seven-star elder had personally helped him, telling him to become an instructor here in the God Institute? Just how big were his connections? Long Chen's words were half true and half false. It was true that this status plate was special. He had learned that from the disciple rulebook that he had been given. The seven-star elder had not mentioned it to him. He was aware that this was the third time such a status plate had appeared. His position was definitely not ordinary. As for why the seven-star elder hadn't told him, Long Chen guessed it was to not make him arrogant. The Pill Institute was the most special place in the High Firmament Academy and could be considered the core of the academy. After all, the pills that the disciples needed for cultivation were all provided by the Pill Institute. Hence, just by showing off his status plate and making a connection between him and the seven-star elder, he became clothed in tiger clothes. He couldn't be touched. Within the rulebook he had been given, there was an introduction to the Pill Institute's positions. The position of the seven-star elder was a bit lower than an institute head, but only by a bit. It was a position with extremely high authority. Of course, the reason he beat this elder was precisely to cause a bigger fuss. Only by causing a bigger fuss could he pull in more benefits for himself. The elder's expression was extremely ugly at this moment. He had been in the academy for many years and was profoundly aware of how difficult it was to deal with the Pill Institute. Furthermore, for Long Chen to be such a rare genius, only the third to pass their exam with full marks, his status was completely different than an ordinary disciple. The elder truly was not qualified to directly punish Long Chen. He would have to leave it to the Pill Institute to handle him. Just like that, he was slapped twice for nothing. Only after stating his case did Long Chen retract his sword. He then looked at the elder's expression and knew that his plan had worked. I will report this to the Pill Institute's department. I strongly condemn your crude behavior. Just wait. The elder gloomily crawled up, waved his sleeve, and left. The law enforcement disciples also left with him along with Zhong Changxing and the others. As he passed by Long Chen, he eyed him. Just like that, Long Chen slapped him in the face. What are you looking at? Just as everyone thought that things were over, Zhong Changxing was slapped in the face by Long Chen due to him staring too much. After ascending to the immortal world, all of Long Chen's abilities were suppressed, and only his divine face-slapping art was still as precise and refined as ever. He had a 100% hit rate here in the immortal world. Zhong Changxing was caught off guard and was thrown to the ground by the slap. Stars spun in his vision. The people beside him were shocked. Long Chen was truly arrogant. Not even looking at him was all right for him. They then took out their weapons. But even once their weapons were out, they didn't dare to attack. That was because Long Chen's sword was already pointed at Zhong Changxing's head. They didn't even see Long Chen's movements clearly as it was too fast. His sword was already pointed at Zhong Changxing before any of them could do anything. What do you want? Zhong Changxing was startled and enraged. He had never expected to provoke such a vicious character this time. He had thought that he was picking up a cat, only for that cat to become a mighty tiger in an instant, and it was definitely a murderous tiger. I don't want anything. I'm just warning you not to provoke me. In the lower world, I killed countless people. My path was covered in mountains of corpses and seas of blood. I didn't descend to the immortal world to waste time with idiots like you. My time is very precious. By wasting my time, you are harming me. Anyone who harms me is my enemy, and my enemies don't have good endings, let alone long lives. Long Chen patted Zhong Changxing with the flat side of his sword. I hope that you'll remember the words I'm saying today. If you do, it might save your life. After saying that, Long Chen put away his sword. Zhong Changxing then finally stood up, and he glared at Long Chen, sharp light in his eyes. His divine energy fluctuations slowly rose. The current Long Chen was standing right in front of him, and his sword was already pulled back. He was no threat. Now was the best time to attack him. As for Long Chen's sword, it was nothing more than mortal metal. Other than if it struck the eyes or the glabella, it wouldn't be able to harm the body fatally. He was still hesitating about whether or not he should attack and take Long Chen's life. After all, Long Chen had attacked him first. Even if he killed Long Chen, he would have justification. Long Chen stared at Zhong Changxing indifferently. Ignoring his divine energy fluctuations, Long Chen said, "Of course, you can view what I just said as bragging. If you don't believe me, you can try it. But I will just warn you that you shouldn't. If you do, that's the end of everything." Zhong Changxing stared at Long Chen gloomily, filled with hesitation. Long Chen was clearly someone with extremely dense mortal qi within him. Such a person was barely acceptable by the High Firmament Academy's standards. Normally, he would be able to kill a mass of such people with a single palm. But facing Long Chen, he was completely shaken and didn't dare to attack. We'll see what happens in the future. Zhong Changxing then clenched his teeth and left with his people, deciding not to attack in the end. "Wow. You look pretty weak, but you're actually amazing," said the woman beside Mu Qingyun. "Zhong Ling, don't be rude." Mu Qingyun frowned. That Zhong Ling stuck out her tongue but apologized. "Sorry, I'm just happy to see Zhong Changxing look like he ate dog poop. Long Chen, don't mind me." When Mu Qingyun had introduced herself and asked Long Chen for his name, that had just been a polite formality. They had all known Long Chen's name before because it was written in the registration for the exam. Long Chen looked at this woman. Her smiling face looked truly innocent, and everything she thought was written on her face. He smiled. "Of course, I should be thanking you. Brother Long is too courteous. I'm ashamed to say it, but we were only forced to fight back because the other side forced us to the point of no return. It just so happened that your matter made this fight much more straightforward. We didn't really help you," said Mu Qingyun. "I'm still grateful. As an ascender, I have no friends or family in the immortal world. I appreciate your care." Long Chen cupped his fist to them. Although they hadn't managed to help him with anything, just the intention was enough. "Big brother Long Chen, you're too polite. You have the 7-star elder as a backer. Although it might not be enough to say that you can run rampant in the academy, there are definitely only a few people who would dare to offend you," said the other woman beside Mu Qingyun. The others also looked at him admiringly. It was no wonder Long Chen dared to act like this when he had the support of the 7-star elder. "Let me introduce you. These two are my sisters, Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu," said Mu Qingyun. "What pretty names," said Long Chen with a smile. "Hee, big brother Long Chen really knows how to talk." Zhong Ling laughed. Her happiness was written clearly on her face. There wasn't the slightest plot or scheme behind her face, not even the reserved veil of a woman. "They have the same parents, but they grew up looking quite different," said Mu Qingyun, growing more comfortable with Long Chen. He seemed like a different person now, and the atmosphere became friendly. Long Chen was surprised to hear that. The two of them didn't look alike at all. However, he didn't express it. "Big brother Long," started Zhong Ling. "If you want to call me big brother, you can call me third brother. Back where I came from, I was used to being called third brother Long San," said Long Chen. Okay, third brother, you really are amazing. Your cultivation base is so weak. Hee, sorry, I'm used to being straightforward. But you really are amazing. Teach me how to fight. If I can get half as amazing as you, that vile Zhong Changxing won't be able to bully us any longer," said Zhong Ling expectantly. Her eyes shone with worship. In her understanding of the world, to defeat a powerful opponent required a higher cultivation base that suppressed the opponent. However, Long Chen had such a weak cultivation base but was so terrifying, crushing experts of the divine rankings and even slapping the discipline elder in the divine flame realm. That toppled her understanding of cultivation. "That's right, you'll be an instructor in the future, so we can attend your classes. We'll definitely study hard," said Zhong Xiu as well. "Third brother Long, you seem much more skilled than the other instructors. They just teach us some theories that aren't really useful in real battle." The other disciples beside Mu Qingyun were also excited. It seemed that they wanted to attend Long Chen's class right away. However, according to the academy's rules, they could only attend lessons from official teachers, and Long Chen was not officially given that position yet. "Who is Long Chen?" Just at this moment, a thunderous voice rang out and a group of people walked in. When they saw the person at the front, Mu Qingyun and the others jumped in shock and then hastily bowed. "Greetings, Divine Lightning Elder." The arrival of the Divine Lightning Elder made every disciple stiffen, including Mu Qingyun. This group of people didn't just possess terrifying auras, but there was also the strong stench of blood. Long Chen was also surprised. Ever since he had ascended to the immortal world, this was the first group of real experts he encountered, experts that had truly killed their way out of the battlefield. Their leader was a tall and muscular middle-aged man. His face was rough, and his eyes were like copper bells. Moreover, his full beard still had some blood in it. It seemed that they had just returned from a battlefield. His gaze instantly fell on Long Chen. His eyes widened. Good brat. What a dense blood chi. Oh, and you also have thunder force in your body? Ah, good. The Divine Lightning Elder's gaze was electric, seemingly having seen through Long Chen. His expression hadn't looked so good when he entered the room, but his attitude completely transformed when he saw Long Chen. Little fellow, I have just returned when someone told me that the Pill Institute was intentionally causing trouble to humiliate our God Institute. When I get back, I'll definitely break that person's legs and stick them up his butt, cursed the Divine Lightning Elder. Although Long Chen didn't quite understand what was happening or what kind of rank this Divine Lightning Elder possessed, he estimated that it was not inferior to the 7-star Elder. Someone had clearly tried to create a conflict between him and Long Chen. Moreover, this Divine Lightning Elder did not look like someone with a good temper. As soon as he received such a report, he would go find trouble for Long Chen, and the real target was most likely the Pill Institute. However, as soon as he saw Long Chen, he lost any faith in that person's words. The thunder force flowing within Long Chen's body essentially told him what kind of character Long Chen had. Furthermore, Long Chen could also sense a wild lightning power within the Divine Lightning Elder's body. Then looking at his face, Long Chen sensed the pride and arrogance within his bones. This Divine Lightning Elder was the only true lightning cultivator that Long Chen had met in his lifetime. With both of them possessing such a rare element, they instantly formed a connection. Those who cultivated wild lightning were all direct and frank. Whatever issues they had, they would face them head-on and not stab people in the back. Hence, the instant he saw Long Chen, the Divine Lightning Elder knew that he had been lied to. He saw that Long Chen was not the kind of person to intentionally pick a quarrel. Furthermore, in all his years in the academy, he had only encountered a few people with the same character as him. The moment he saw that Long Chen was a lightning cultivator, he felt joy like he wished the two had met earlier. This junior is Long Chen. Greetings, Divine Lightning Elder. Long Chen cupped his fists. What junior? We're all men. Don't get sucked into those useless, convoluted formalities. I am Lei Xiao. You can call me Big Brother Lei Xiao in the future. After so many years, I finally encountered someone to my liking. Once your cultivation base is higher, join me on the battlefield. That's where men should be. Lei Xiao patted Long Chen on the shoulder. Sparks flashed where his hand touched Long Chen's shoulder. That was a resonance between their thunder force. Junior brother Long Chen greets big brother Lei Xiao. Long Chen was also pleasantly surprised to see such a figure in the academy. Thus, hope once more ignited within him for the High Firmament Academy. Good. Junior brother, I came this time to replenish my supplies, so I'm going to leave soon. It might be a while before I return, so properly cultivate during this time. I hope that the next time we meet, your mortal chi will have been expelled and you will have ignited your divine flame. At that time, your big brother will give you wine to celebrate. Lei Xiao was delighted to see Long Chen react without any bashfulness or timidity or fawning. Big brother, don't worry. I will properly cultivate, or wouldn't that be a loss to big brother's face? Said Long Chen confidently. Good. That's the drive that you need. Until next time. Lei Xiao patted Long Chen's shoulder and left. He was in a rush and didn't waste any further time. At this moment, Mu Qingyun stared at Long Chen in amazement. Zhong Ling excitedly said, Third brother, you really are about to soar. Do you know who the Divine Lightning Elder is? The two of you call each other brother? I really don't know who he is, said Long Chen. Heaven, earth, wind, lightning. They are the 4 strongest elders within the sub-institutes of the God Institute. They are our 4 great pillars. Even within the entire academy, They are all giant figures. With the care of the Divine Lightning Elder, your future path will definitely be smooth and easy," exclaimed Zhongling. Long Chen shook his head. "That's not going to happen." "What? You don't understand his character. If I borrow his power to open a back door for myself, he'll look down on me. The only reason he recognizes me as brother is because we have the same character. As for me, I have my own dignity as well. I use my own power to win what I have. In this world, it is not possible to always rely on others. Parents grow old and mountains collapse. Relying on yourself is the most reliable choice. To cultivate is to create a path through mountains, to build a bridge over water. Cultivation is not necessarily just about reaching a certain height before gaining anything. The process is even more important than the result sometimes." Just at this moment, clapping sounds rang out, and a kind-looking old elder walked in, seemingly praising Long Chen's words just now. "Marvelous, truly marvelous. At such a young age, you not only possess such great combat power but can also say such deep words. It truly is rare." The elder nodded in praise. "Heaven Master Yun Yang, why have you come?" Mu Qingyun and the others were startled. They hastily bowed worshipfully. Mu Qingyun quickly gave Long Chen an introduction. "Long Chen, this is our God Institute's Heaven Master, Yun Yang. He is the highest level teacher in our God Institute and the one with the most learning." "Ah, I wouldn't dare to accept such praise. There is no end to learning. Child, you're going to give me a big head." Heaven Master Yun Yang laughed. He was like a kind elder, and he didn't seem to possess any of the arrogance that a Heaven Master would possess. "Junior greets Heaven Master. I hope to get pointers from Senior in the future," said Long Chen. "I couldn't. I teach philosophies on the Tao, while you are skilled in battle. You already possess a rare insight into life. If you have time, I would like to learn from you." Heaven Master Yun Yang smiled at Long Chen so humbly that Long Chen felt a bit embarrassed. "I came here specifically to give you your new status plate. Little brother, congratulations on passing the teacher exam. You've become a battle instructor. The official ceremony will take place 3 days from now, so don't forget to participate." Heaven Master Yun Yang handed a new status plate to Long Chen. Long Chen, Mu Qingyun and the others were startled. It had passed through so quickly? Was that because of the Pill Institute or perhaps the Divine Lightning Elder? "Congratulations. In the future, I'll have to call you Instructor Long Chen," said Heaven Master Yun Yang with a kind smile. "You honor this junior too much." Long Chen received the status plate a bit emotionally. With this, he would be getting quite a bit of income. The High Firmament Academy was not a charity. Everything required money. Without money, it was difficult to even take a single step forward. If that was the case, you would only be able to watch others advance every day while you stagnated. An instructor gets a decent salary, but it's not so great. However, someone with skill will not be buried within the academy. "Work hard," encouraged Heaven Master Yun Yang. After saying that, he left. Mu Qingyun wanted to send him off, but he just flapped his hand at them and left on his own. Staring at his back, Zhongling sighed. "Heaven, earth, human, and mortal. Heaven Master Yun Yang is at the highest level, and he is still so kind. But there are a lot of others with lower positions who swagger down the streets like they're crabs." The High Firmament Academy's teachers were split into 4 tiers: heaven, earth, human, and mortal. Other sects also did the same thing. As for Long Chen's trial, it was just for the lowest level, a mortal-ranked instructor. But even the lowest level still had a good income. Other than the set salary, there were also bonuses for holding extra classes and such. Every month, the academy only had 2 classes for the public that were free. If the disciples felt that they wanted to learn more or if they felt that a certain teacher's instructions weren't clear, they could pay money for any teacher. They could do it one-on-one or in groups. It was more profitable to do it in groups since the price was split among multiple people. Mu Qingyun and the others often formed groups to attend lectures, raising their overall power. As for this Heaven Master Yun Yang, his classes were completely free, and he also didn't stand on air. He answered all questions without holding anything back. It was only regretful that Heaven Master Yun Yang was extremely busy. Mu Qingyun and the others had only managed to attend 2 of his lessons, but every lesson always benefited them immensely. There was no way for the other instructors to compare to him. He was beloved by all within the academy. Seeing his mannerism and then comparing it to the other instructors, Zhong Ling sighed. Long Chen indifferently said, "A full bottle doesn't make noise when it shakes, but a half-empty one makes plenty of noise. The more learning someone has, the more they feel like there is to learn. Mature wheat bends. Only dried-up wheat stands straight up as if afraid others won't see it." His luck was decent today as he had encountered both Lei Xiao and Heaven Master Yun Yang. He supposed he couldn't say that there weren't any real experts within the High Firmament Academy now. But the Academy's lower ranks were a complete mess. How was it that the higher-ups weren't doing anything? "Third brother, your words were really well said. I like the comparisons. You must also be someone with great learning," said Zhong Xiu. Both these 2 sisters were very pure and unrestrained, even calling Long Chen third brother very naturally. They looked at him with worship in their eyes. That was due to Long Chen's young age combined with his terrifying prowess in combat and his way of talking. Although his clothes were tattered and he looked worn down, it didn't conceal his heroic spirit. The Divine Lightning Elder called him brother at first sight, and even Heaven Master Yun Yang viewed Long Chen favorably. That clearly showed that Long Chen was worthy of their respect. In all their years of cultivation, they had never seen a person reach this level. "Brother Long, congratulations on being promoted. There's still plenty of time, so would you like to celebrate with us?" asked Mu Qingyun. She was happy to have formed a connection with Long Chen. Considering how the Divine Lightning Elder and Heaven Master Yun Yang viewed him, his future prospects were limitless. "I have just entered the immortal world and am penniless. Having you pay for me would be embarrassing," said Long Chen helplessly. On the martial heaven continent, he had reached the point of no longer needing money. However, now that he had just ascended, it was like he had been beaten back to the very start of his journey. Not having money really was painful. Mu Qingyun smiled. Before she could speak, Zhong Xiu giggled. "It's fine. You're going to be an instructor. If you feel embarrassed, you can just teach us some more. That way, you won't owe us anything." "Zhong Xiu, how can you make a transaction over such a matter? Being able to meet Brother Long and become friends with him is enough to celebrate a meal over. Brother Long, please don't overthink it. Otherwise, it would make us feel bad," said Mu Qingyun. With how enthusiastic she was, Long Chen didn't feel good declining. That would make him seem unreasonable. Hence, seeing him agree, they cheered, especially Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu. Mu Qinglin shook her head slightly looking at them. A somewhat helpless expression appeared on her face. After that, they walked out of the courtroom and Mu Qingyun led the way. They then went to a place where flying immortal beasts were provided to disciples to move around. These flying mounts were small, usually only for 1 or 2 people at once. Within the academy, the lower your cultivation base, the more trouble you had to go through. Perhaps this was the motivation for disciples to focus on cultivation. The higher their cultivation bases, the more benefits they got. In the end, Long Chen ended up on the same mount as Mu Qingyun. He felt a bit awkward because he saw Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu smiling playfully. However, Mu Qingyun was very relaxed. She sat first, so Long Chen naturally could only thicken his face and sit with her. The immortal beasts started flying, forming a line. Long Chen didn't speak on the way and just stared at the ancient forest they were flying over. With Long Chen not speaking, Mu Qingyun also felt a bit awkward. The 2 of them were just silently sitting there. In the end, it was Mu Qingyun who spoke first. "Brother Long, I have one thing I don't understand. The Pill Institute offers its disciples the best benefits. Why would you come to the God Institute to be a teacher? Isn't it because of that idiot teacher that caused me to lose my initial benefits? He actually wanted to use me as an example of what not to do, trying to humiliate me in front of everyone. After that, I just slapped him into the wall so hard that he couldn't get out." Just mentioning this matter made Long Chen angry. He truly found it difficult to stomach to see someone who was trash at alchemy give him pointers on it. If he had been a bit angrier at that time, he might have killed that idiot. Mu Qingyun couldn't help laughing. The expressions and gestures that Long Chen used when telling his story were too funny. Even she was teased into laughing. The sound of her laughter was pleasant to hear, but this laughter made Long Chen feel a bit embarrassed. Don't misunderstand, I'm not laughing at you. The way you talk is just really interesting, said Mu Qingyun with mirth. Watch out! Long Chen suddenly shouted and grabbed Mu Qingyun. After that, the two of them went flying off of the immortal beast's back. They had barely fallen off of the beast when a giant figure appeared and smashed into the immortal beast. The beast cried out and plummeted from the sky. It was a giant flying boat. Due to a mountain blocking their vision and its extreme speed, there was no time to react before it crashed into them. If it weren't for Long Chen, they would have been struck along with the immortal beast. Although it wouldn't be so serious that they would die from the impact, it would be difficult to avoid injury. At this moment, Long Chen's expression darkened, and killing intent appeared in his eyes. The angle that this flying boat had come out of was off. It had clearly been trying to hit them. Without the flying immortal beast, the two of them fell from the sky. Since they hadn't ignited their divine flames, there was no way for them to float in midair. Just at that moment, another flying beast flew over and caught them. It was Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu who just so happened to be the closest to them. The flying beast wasn't large enough to carry all four of them, but it was at least strong enough that it didn't plummet even with the additional weight. How hateful! That is their hunting flying boat. Also, this is not one of the official paths for flying boats. They were trying to hit us. Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu were filled with fury. Mu Qingyun also stared at the flying boat darkly. Seeing it, she knew which bastards were behind this. The flying boat slowed down after hitting them. It then slowly advanced as if trying to show off its martial might. Do you have any heavy weapons? Asked Long Chen suddenly. What? I have a heavy rod, Mu Qingyun answered in surprise. Give it to me. But the flying beast can't endure it. If they took out such a heavy weapon on the immortal beast, it would instantly plummet with them on it. It's fine. Toss it over, said Long Chen. Mu Qingyun didn't know what Long Chen wanted to do. However, she still formed hand seals and summoned a bronze rod. As soon as it appeared, Long Chen tossed it into the primal chaos space. He was extremely fast, putting it away before it affected the immortal beast. Chase them, said Long Chen to Zhong Ling. We can't catch up to them. Also, Zhong Ling hesitated. What could they do even if they chased? They would be inviting trouble to themselves. Listen to me. If I don't make them bleed a bit today, they won't know that I'm not to be provoked, said Long Chen darkly. There were truly many people who wanted to die. If he didn't make them reserve themselves a bit, he would have to constantly deal with them in the academy. When would he have time to raise his own power then? All right. Zhong Ling seemed to trust Long Chen and sent the immortal beast flying over. The flying boat slowed down, allowing it to catch up. It was as if they were taunting Long Chen and the others, which further proved that they had struck them intentionally. Third brother, it's no good. A flying boat is 10 times faster than us. We can't catch up. After a while, they ended up maintaining a certain distance from each other. The flying boat occasionally sped up and slowed down, toying with them. It's fine. Just keep chasing. Leave the rest to me, said Long Chen. A sword then appeared in his hand. Long Chen snapped the sword. After that, he held a 6-inch fragment of it and slowly stood. Bending down, he was like a leopard eyeing its prey for an opening. That single-minded concentration and sharp gaze shook Mu Qingyun and the others' hearts. The current Long Chen seemed to have returned to his cold and frightening state. Now, when the flying boat once more slowed down to taunt them and the distance between them closed, Long Chen suddenly stamped down. The immortal beast dropped hundreds of meters, causing Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu to cry out. Long Chen shot out. Long Chen then tossed the fragment of the sword into the air as he jumped, and while it was midair, his foot stepped down on it. Using it as another step, he jumped further. While the fragment of the sword smashed into the ground like a meteor, Long Chen gracefully soared into the sky. Long Chen then reached the flying boat. At that moment, Mu Qingyun's bronze rod appeared. With a thunderous roar, Long Chen smashed the rod into the rear of the flying boat. There was a giant vent there with flickering runes, and it was the central hub that gave the flying boat propulsion. As a result, with an explosive sound, the rear of the flying boat exploded and Long Chen was bloodied by the impact. With the support of his spiritual yuan, the backlash sent him flying back. Just at that moment, Zhongling caught him as he fell, having controlled the immortal beast to fly over. Long Chen then grabbed her hand and stabilized himself on the immortal beast's back. Their cooperation was excellent. The flying boat's formations were seemingly out of control. It then spun through the air until it smashed toward a mountain. Heavens, no way! Zhongling and Zhongxiu covered their eyes. Boom! The flying boat smashed into the mountain, sending bits and pieces flying in every direction. It was unknown if the people inside were alive or dead. At this moment, Mu Qingyun's expression changed slightly. Long Chen was truly vicious. That flying boat contained a hunting squad, and there were thousands of disciples on it. If they died just like this, Long Chen would have brought a giant calamity onto himself. However, when she looked at him, she saw that his expression was completely at ease, as if this was a completely insignificant matter. Let's go. I'm getting hungry. We had to use quite a bit of energy just now, so we'll need to eat a bit more to make up for it. Long Chen's heart was beating a bit too fast. Without the support of his spiritual yuan, he had used up too much power just now. Immortal qi had poured into his body, overloading it. This was because his mortal qi was still too dense. He had to think of some way to hurry and expel it, or this feeling of not being able to use his power would drive him mad. How would he fight others like this? Should we go take a look? Asked Mu Qingyun uneasily. If there were gravely wounded people, they would still be able to save them if they went now. If many people died, it would be troublesome. There's nothing to see. Their luck was not bad. That mountain was severely eroded by the wind. The mountain might have collapsed, but it just served as a cushion. They won't die. At most, they'll have some broken bones. Damn, if they had run into the neighboring cliff, then all their bones would have been torn apart. How regretful. Long Chen shook his head. Hearing his words, Mu Qingyun felt a chill. This viciousness shook her. Long Chen actually wanted all of them to die? He had guts. However, his words also made her relax. She recalled the exact scene of the flying boat crashing into the mountain, and it seemed that he was right. This mountain wasn't very tough, so it shouldn't be too bad for the people inside. She then led everyone on their original path. This matter made the worship in Zhongling and Zhongxiu's eyes grow. The way that Long Chen had used the broken sword to reach the flying boat in particular amazed them, and they truly wanted to learn from him. Just as these two sisters were talking, the immortal beasts descended on their destination. As for the missing immortal beast, she reported it to the guards there. Moreover, this matter definitely wouldn't end here. They would definitely have to face the court again, but she was already used to such a thing. Mu Qingyun then led the way to an ancient, tall building. As soon as they entered, waves of fragrance washed over them, and Long Chen's stomach instantly started grumbling, causing the sisters to laugh. Brother Long's stomach is hungry. Let's hurry. Mu Qingyun smiled. Although she wasn't too familiar with Long Chen, his normal frank character made others very comfortable. They didn't need to restrain themselves when with him. Long Chen had only just stepped onto the second floor when a sneer rang out. How disappointing. Does the precious delicacy pavilion allow just anyone to enter? Long Chen was startled as that voice was a bit familiar. He then looked around and was surprised. How did this fellow end up appearing here? This person was someone Long Chen recognized. He was the first person who felt that they needed to report their own name after Long Chen entered the immortal world. Pan Mingxiong. When Long Chen had been asking a woman in line for some information, she had felt pity for him and not only answered him but was also willing to lend him the fee for the registration. Pan Mingxiong had been irritated by this for some reason. It was unknown if he was jealous of Long Chen's looks or simply looked down on people from the lower world. Due to his unclean mouth, Long Chen decided to slap him to clean it out. Afterward, both of them were disqualified, and Long Chen found a different way to enter the academy. As for this fellow, he did the same thing. Pan Mingxiong had said that he had a big brother in the academy that was on the divine rankings. However, those two law enforcement disciples didn't care and still kicked him out. Seeing him in disciple robes and drinking with a few others, Long Chen saw that he still had his previous arrogant appearance. His way of looking down his nose at people hadn't changed in the slightest. At this time, he was looking at a woman in a corner. She wore ordinary robes and didn't have a powerful aura. She was quietly eating her bowl of food with her head down. While everyone else was eating lavish meals, she was hiding in a corner eating something. That did appear a bit poor. Long Chen looked at her and was startled to see a bump on her stomach. She was actually pregnant. As soon as Pan Mingxiong spoke, she blushed. She wanted to leave, but she hadn't finished eating, so she hesitated. With such aptitude, it would be best to just leave the academy instead of embarrassing yourself here. With your own talent lacking, are you hoping for your child to fight for you? Have you not heard that dragons birth dragons, phoenixes birth phoenixes? A mouse's child can only dig holes. Are you unaware that your table manners are disgusting for others to witness? What are you waiting for? Hurry up and scram. You're just as disgusting as those rats from the lower world, sneered Pan Mingxiong. The woman quivered with rage and couldn't hold back her tears. However, she still stood and prepared to leave. Just at this moment, an icy voice rang out. I really am puzzled. How is it that an idiot who can only turn food into crap feels qualified to mock someone who can turn food into a new life? Mu Qingyun, Zhong Ling, Zhong Xiu, and the others were equally disgusted by Pan Mingxiong's words. However, just like that, Long Chen made that anger transform into laughter. Mu Qingyun couldn't help it. Long Chen's humor always came without warning, making it impossible to guard against. Which bastard is talking? Get out here, roared Pan Mingxiong. Long Chen walked in. When Pan Mingxiong saw him, his eyes widened. He then smiled in twisted delight. Good brat, I was actually thinking of how to find you. But you actually sent yourself to me. Seeing Long Chen still wearing his tattered black robes, he was reminded of their first meeting. The humiliation from back then instantly caused his anger to soar. That slap had resulted in him being disqualified, and he had been forced to use a back door to enter the academy. It had cost quite a bit and required many connections. That slap had not just cost him his dignity, but it had also cost him a large sum of wealth. Hence, his eyes reddened at this moment. Brother Pan, has this brat offended you? I'll teach him a lesson for you. Another disciple eating with him stood, rubbing his fists. No need. I'll show you my true abilities today. I'll make sure to tear out every single one of his tendons and rip off his skin. Pan Mingxiong laughed and charged at Long Chen. Mu Qingyun, Zhong Ling, Zhong Xiu, and the others who had come with them shook their heads, almost tearing away. Pow! As expected, Pan Mingxiong was slapped in the face. Half his face caved in, and the sound of bones breaking made their goosebumps rise. Pan Mingxiong then spun like a spinning top. After that, Long Chen's right foot was as quick as lightning, landing on his coccyx. As a result, Pan Mingxiong's body instantly curled up like a shrimp, his eyes almost flying out of his head. Pan Mingxiong screamed and was kicked away like a cannonball, flying out of the window. His scream was echoing into the distance and slowly faded as he flew to an unknown location. Eventually, it faded altogether. It was unknown if that was due to flying too far or if he simply fainted midway. The others who had been with him stared at the window, dumbfounded. Jackals from the same tribe. Scram. Long Chen's foot struck 3 more times, resulting in 3 more screams as they all flew out of the window, their bones broken. Just as he was about to strike the last one, that person hastily raised his hands. Brother, I won't trouble you. I'll do it myself. That person took off his shoe and struck his own butt with it. Just like the others, he screamed and then jumped out of the window. Long Chen was too confused to even react. Before he could react, that fellow had already run. Who would have thought that this fellow actually had some smarts? He had escaped this kick. Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu then quivered with laughter. On this one day, they had laughed more than the past few months together. Meanwhile, the other guests eating were too scared to make a sound. The ones to come eat here were disciples, workers, and managers, but they had never seen such a vicious character. That was especially true when they spotted Mu Qingyun beside him. Her name was quite famous here. Seeing her standing behind Long Chen like he was the leader, those people couldn't help guessing what his status was. Big sister, eat here in peace. If your money came honorably, you can have a clear conscience eating here. This world never has anything like people who are higher or lower. Just be your best self and ignore those idiots, said Long Chen to the pregnant woman. She was originally pale with fright, but seeing him smile, the image of a fiend vanished, seemingly becoming a friendly neighborhood boy. Many thanks, she said. Waiter, bring this big sister 2 snowflake beef, a wide-tail sori, and a white-cut snow chicken. I'll pay later, said Mu Qingyun to a waiter who was hiding. Senior apprentice sister, I've already eaten my fill. I can't eat that much, that's all right. If you can't finish it, bring it with you. Even if you don't want it, that child inside you might want some, said Mu Qingyun with a smile. That pregnant woman's eyes reddened. She couldn't help crying as she thanked Mu Qingyun. After that, Long Chen and Mu Qingyun ascended another level, arriving at a private room. Mu Qingyun had Long Chen sit in the lead position, but Long Chen refused no matter what, so Mu Qingyun took that position. Everyone had just sat down when a group of disciples wearing the robes of the law enforcers also walked in. May I ask where Instructor Long Chen is? Asked one of those disciples politely with a smile. They had come directly to Long Chen and the others and were staring right at them, but they first asked who Long Chen was. Their apprehension was obvious. I am Long Chen. Long Chen spoke. He already knew what they had come for. He had just beaten Pan Mingxiong, so it was too early for law enforcement disciples to appear for that. Even if Pan Mingxiong reported it, the response wouldn't be so fast. For these law enforcement disciples to come now, it was clearly due to the matter of smashing the flying boat. That timing sounded about right. Instructor Long Chen, let me first make it clear, we are only in charge of investigating some testimony. We have no intention of targeting you. If those people say some offensive things, I hope you won't mind. We're just carrying out our duty, said the head disciple. The fear in his eyes was clear. Long Chen had injured hundreds of people by attacking the flying boat. Those people all had broken bones. After that, those people had reported Long Chen to the Discipline Institute. As for the elder on duty, it was the one that Long Chen had previously slapped. That elder had also been the one to report Long Chen to the Divine Lightning Elder. The fury of being slapped had made him come up with a plan to incite a conflict between the two of them. Hence, he vaguely reported that Long Chen was an emissary of the Pill Institute who had come to cause trouble in the God Institute. Considering that their relationship was bad from the start, and adding the Divine Lightning Elder's explosive temperament, his plan went well. The Divine Lightning Elder had furiously gone to find Long Chen. However, not long after, the Divine Lightning Elder returned. Before the Discipline Elder could even ask the Divine Lightning Elder how it went, the latter kicked him so hard that he coughed up blood and almost died. The Divine Lightning Elder furiously swore, "Next time you treat me like an idiot, I'll kill you." The kick left the Discipline Elder with serious injuries, and he had to quickly consume some medicinal pills to suppress them. After investigating, he almost died of rage. Using some unknown sorcery, Long Chen had actually become brothers with the Divine Lightning Elder. When he heard that news, he coughed up blood and directly fainted. The disciples then hastily supported him, feeding him medicinal pills. He was unconscious for over 2 hours before he woke up. Unfortunately, as soon as he was awake, another disciple came to report that people were accusing Long Chen of attacking their flying boat, injuring them and almost costing the lives of everyone on the flying boat. If it was before he was kicked by the Divine Lightning Elder, he would definitely jump in excitement. But now he was afraid. The 7-star Elder was not an easy existence to provoke, while the Divine Lightning Elder definitely couldn't be provoked. As for this evil star known as Long Chen, he no longer wanted to provoke it either. Due to some connections, he was supposed to stand on these disciples' side. However, he was now afraid. He had an idea to pretend that he was ill and couldn't go out, But if that happened, the news of him being kicked by the Divine Lightning Elder would spread like wildfire. That would be too embarrassing. After thinking and thinking, he decided to first send people to probe Long Chen's attitude. Once a full investigation was done, he could make his decision on how to toss away this scalding sweet potato. He could easily stall this matter a few days and leave it to a different elder. Then he could relieve himself of this responsibility and just watch the show. However, the disciples he told to ask Long Chen about what happened turned green. Just what kind of existence was Long Chen? He killed people without batting an eye. Wasn't questioning him just asking to die? If done well, they would just be slapped a few times. Done badly, their lives would be gone. No one wanted to take this task. In the end, the task had fallen to this unfortunate fellow. But he had no way to decline because that elder was his master. If he didn't go, he would have no way of living in the God Institute. So he could only thicken his face and come. That expression of his looked like he wanted to cry. The other disciples who came with him stood far behind, as if too afraid to even get close to Long Chen. It's fine. You can ask your questions. I'm actually a very even-tempered person, said Long Chen indifferently. Even-tempered? That disciple's expression turned odd. Were the stories just scary ghost stories? Seeing the law enforcement disciples quivering, Mu Qingyun and the others almost laughed. Just who was questioning who? Due to their special status, law enforcement disciples always appeared arrogant. Although they didn't usually cause trouble themselves, they were so tyrannical that they always spoke with an interrogating tone. Although Mu Qingyun and the others could be considered courteous, the other disciples on this floor couldn't be described in that manner. Law enforcement disciples were not well liked within the God Institute. Hence, seeing them looking like they were going to piss themselves from fear, these disciples laughed. It was unknown just how hard it was for Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu to hold themselves back. The law enforcement disciple took out a notebook and carefully said, "A small hunting squad reported that Instructor Long Chen, you, wanted to kill them. I myself definitely don't believe such an accusation, nor will our Discipline Institute be biased and only hear one side. So, we want to hear your explanation. Is it convenient for you to explain?" "Did they not mention why they decided to kill our flying mount?" asked Long Chen. "They said it was due to loss of control." "It was a misunderstanding," answered the law enforcement disciple. "A misunderstanding?" Yes, this matter was truly just a misunderstanding. Long Chen nodded with a smile. What does that mean?" asked the disciple. "We were just riding on a flying immortal beast when something flew out and tried to smash into us. Fortunately, I was fast enough to run, or we would have been killed. Just think about it. If someone wanted to kill you, wouldn't you counterattack?" "Yes." The disciple nodded. "Exactly. My first thought was that someone was invading the academy and killing people. So I attacked back. After my attack landed, Senior Apprentice Sister Qingyun told me that it was actually a hunting flying boat, but by that time, everything was over. So just like they said, it really was a misunderstanding. I'm glad that the misunderstanding has been cleared up. Since no one was damaged, this matter can be concluded here," said Long Chen magnanimously. Those law enforcement disciples stared at him oddly. They had personally seen those hunting disciples. Their injuries were severe. Some people were crushed into pancakes, and some had almost lost their lives. This was considered no damage? Are there any questions? If not, we're about to eat. Would you like to join us? Asked Long Chen. No. No, we won't disturb you any longer. Have a nice day, said that disciple. With this, it was clear that it was the hunting party causing trouble. But they had caused trouble for the wrong party. The hunting party couldn't possibly admit that they had intentionally crashed into someone. As for Long Chen, he acted like he didn't recognize their flying boat. By saying that he thought they were invaders, they couldn't do anything to him, considering his background. This matter would definitely be glossed over just like this. In any case, they had a rough understanding of what happened. As for any real decisions, it would be up to that elder. They had finished their mission without being beaten. That was enough for them to light incense. Just as they were about to leave, another group of law enforcement disciples furiously stamped up the stairs. Who is Long Chen? Get the hell out here. This new group of disciples came with blazing killing intent. They were also carrying a stretcher. The person lying on the stretcher was precisely Pan Mingxiong, who was still curled up like a shrimp. Long Chen's kick had broken his coccyx. Even with spirit medicines, it was not something that would heal in 1 or 2 days. Hence, he was in immense pain. These law enforcement disciples were his big brother's good friends. As soon as he was lifted up, he went to find them. These people were quite brotherly, so they directly came to find justice for Pan Mingxiong. However, after shouting, their leader suddenly noticed something off. He saw another group of law enforcement disciples. Squad leader? What are you doing here? The one who had just come to interrogate Long Chen was actually a part of the first group squad. He was nothing more than a subordinate. Do you want to die? What are you shouting here for? The squad leader pelted him with curses. The one being cursed lowered his head, not knowing what was going on. His relationship with this squad leader was normally pretty good. Why was he being cursed? Squad leader, we came to find Long Chen, he said, not comprehending. Shut up. Is the name of instructor Long Chen something you can say? Cursed the squad leader. Instructor? He's an instructor? The disciple was startled and looked at Pan Mingxiong on the stretcher. Pan Mingxiong had told them that Long Chen was nothing more than an ascender from the lower world, someone with no background. Was there a mistake? They definitely wouldn't have come to find trouble for an instructor. Pan Mingxiong was filled with disbelief. The Long Chen I'm talking about is the one in those black clothes. Doesn't he look like a beggar? Is there some mistake? Shut up, the squad leader shouted. In the entire academy, other than Long Chen, almost no one wore black. Who else could it be? The squad leader didn't care about Pan Mingxiong really, but he did care about his subordinate's life. As the latter gradually came to understand that this matter was not ordinary, he wisely shut his mouth. Instructor Long Chen, I didn't discipline my subordinate properly, causing them to offend you. Do you think you can let them off due to their youth and ignorance? I don't want to ruin your meal, the squad leader begged Long Chen. The newcomers were dumbfounded. What was going on? Even an instructor wasn't qualified to make their squad leader act like this, right? Have them scram, said Long Chen. Many thanks. The squad leader indicated for them to leave, but before they could take more than a couple of steps, Long Chen's voice rang out once more. I told you to have them scram. Did you not understand? Understood, understood, cried out the squad leader. Those disciples were dumbfounded. What are you hesitating for? Well, the squad leader grabbed one of them and kicked him in the butt. With a painful cry, he rolled down the stairs. The others also helplessly thickened their faces and began rolling down. The squad leader grabbed Pan Mingxiong, wanting to throw him down. That was because in his current state, he couldn't move, so he had to be helped by others. Hey, wait a moment. My brother is Pan Mingxiong. You must know him. He'll be returning soon cried Pan Mingxiong. He's already back. Most of his bones are currently broken, and he's in a worse state than you. Are you still hoping for help from him? Idiot, if it weren't for you, would all this have happened? Get going. The squad leader kicked Pan Mingxiong in the butt. Pan Mingxiong then screamed and rolled down. Medicine had been applied to his coccyx, but it had only recovered a bit, and that wound was torn open once more. Furthermore, he was even more sensitive in this state. This roll almost cost him his life. He screamed like a dying pig as he rolled down before he eventually fainted. Once the squad leader and the others were finally gone, everyone else on that floor finally burst into laughter. Third brother, why aren't you laughing? Asked Zhongling. Long Chen still seemed serious, but it was precisely that serious appearance that made her unable to hold back her laughter. Maybe my threshold for laughter is just a bit high. Long Chen bitterly smiled. Before this, he would also have laughed like this. However, after experiencing the battle of the Martial Heaven continent's destruction, it felt like his heart had been destroyed along with the continent. He had yet to fully recover from the impact of that battle. Although he knew he had to persevere and let go of that burden so that he could relax, he knew that would require more time. He had to find his biological parents, reconvene with his brothers, and find his women. As a 9-star heir, it seemed there were far too many secrets within him. He needed to uncover them bit by bit. He had many things to do. Although he knew that he had to take things one step at a time, that he needed to relax in order to do these things well, he still felt immense pressure. Only someone bearing the same burden would know just how heavy it was. The food quickly arrived. These were delicacies of the immortal world. Not only were they delicious, but they were also greatly beneficial to the body. However, the price was also quite considerable. Just from Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu's expressions, it could be seen that this was a rare opportunity for them. The food was excellent. However, the wine was lacking. After drinking the Wine God Palace's wine, Long Chen felt that the immortal world's wine was as insipid as water. However, Mu Qingyun and the others seemed to have a low tolerance to the wine. Their cheeks quickly became red. On the other hand, Long Chen never declined any wine and continued drinking until he was several jugs in without changing expression. Mu Qingyun repeatedly praised his capacity. As they ate and drank, the atmosphere loosened. Long Chen finally learned a bit about the disciples of the God Institute. The God Institute could be said to be split between 3 tiers: heaven, earth, and human. These 3 represented 3 different realms. For them, disciples in the mortal transcendence realm, they were only at the human tier. Although Mu Qingyun and the others had almost fully expelled their mortal qi, they had yet to condense their divine flames. Thus, they were unable to expel that final trace of mortal qi and were still in the mortal transcendence realm. Each tier had a ranking based on combat power. Those who were able to enter the rankings were given plentiful rewards every month. Thus, the competition in the God Institute was quite intense. This competition was kept under control with various rules, but there were also loopholes. One rule was that anyone on the human rankings could challenge anyone. If they succeeded, they would take the other person's ranking. If they lost, then their name would fall from the rankings. In order to get back on the rankings, they would have to wait until next month for another challenge. But that would cost them a month of the rewards. Does our side have only a few people on the rankings? Asked Long Chen when he saw Mu Qingyun's indignant expression. According to true power, our people would at least occupy 70% of the human rankings. However, the other side possesses stronger individuals, and those bastards are absolutely despicable. They use people that are higher ranked to squeeze us out. Let me give you an example so that you understand. One of our members managed to get to the 56th rank. Then they used someone in the 20s to challenge us, resulting in us losing. The challenger fell to rank 56th. While his own position became empty, leaving it to others to fight for it. As a result, they control many of the spots in the divine rankings. It's difficult for us to get on the rankings consistently, so right now, we only occupy 1/10 of the spots on it, explained Mu Qingyun angrily. Does the God Institute not care about such a giant loophole? Asked Long Chen. This loophole has been present for countless years. It's been abused and reported countless times. But the God Institute has never said anything about it, sighed Mu Qingyun. So are there 2 factions right now? Yes. They call themselves the Prime Glory Alliance. Their leader is ranked 1 of the human rankings, Chu Kuang, said Mu Qingyun. Long Chen shook his head and scoffed. Was that name made by an idiot? In my world, anyone named this ended up having a terrible end. What was up with his parents? Was he born in the wild? Mu Qingyun laughed and said, Brother Long really is interesting. Chu Kuang is just like his name. He lives up to the Kuang in his name, so he is wild and arrogant. With his family background, he does whatever he wants. It's extremely irritating. Does the God Institute not do anything? Is his father the Institute head? Asked Long Chen curiously. No, that's not it. Although his background is powerful in the God Institute, he still has to follow the rules. When I say that he is wild and arrogant, it is still within the limits of the rules. He bullies and suppresses others, but none of the rules of the God Institute can catch him. The Chu family also has connections amongst the higher-ups. Those connections make him unbridled, and his subordinates are the same. They're all loathsome, said Mu Qingyun hatefully. Chu Kuang is the worst though. When our big sister Qingyun first came, he envied her beauty. Interjected Zhong Ling. Zhong Ling, Don't spout nonsense, scolded Mu Qingyun, blushing slightly. How is it nonsense? Chu Kuang is the one who tried to pursue you, and then when he failed, he started to threaten you before constantly finding trouble for you. Third brother, tell me, don't you think that this Chu Kuang is an absolute bastard? Demanded Zhong Ling righteously. Long Chen nodded. A great woman can be pursued, but when you fail, you must admit defeat. Did this Chu Kuang read so few books that he doesn't even understand this principle? His actions are like a child who didn't get what he wanted. How shameless. Just his name and Zhong Ling's description of what he had done were enough for Long Chen to know what kind of person he was. Although the story was most likely biased, Long Chen's own judgment was rarely wrong. Exactly. That bastard is precisely a bastard, the scum of humanity, a degenerate. But his talent for cultivation is truly high. We can't beat him. After cursing a while, Zhong Ling deflated slightly. After all, he was the existence-ranked first won the human rankings. Mu Qingyun had challenged him many times and was always defeated. She also had to endure his dirty mouth during those times. Let's not talk about those things. Today is a celebration for Brother Long. Don't bring up those vexing things. Drink some more wine. Mu Qingyun took a breath and expelled those thoughts. Just as they drank more, Zhong Ling suddenly said, Third brother, you're so amazing. If your mortal qi is expelled, I feel like you'd have the power to fight Chu Kuang. Why don't you join our unfettered alliance and help us beat the Prime Glory Alliance? Otherwise, even if you're just a teacher, they'll still keep making things hard on you. But together, we'll be able to beat them. Everyone's gaze fell on Long Chen, their eyes full of expectation. Long Chen smiled. This girl looked so innocent, but she was a little minx. She was actually pulling him in at this time. However, he shook his head. My apologies. To tell the truth, fighting on this level really doesn't interest me in the slightest. It might sound bad, but your fighting to me looks like children playing house. It's far too childish in my eyes. I have my own important mission here at the High Firmament Academy, and I'm doing my best to increase my power as fast as possible to face future crises. I've already failed once. I don't want to fail a second time. So I truly apologize. I don't want to be drawn into this game of yours. Zhong Ling was instantly disappointed. Even her eyes reddened. She had thought that Long Chen would definitely join. At this moment, the atmosphere around their table became awkward. Fortunately, there was a master like Mu Qingyun who said, That's fine. Even if you don't join us, we still have the same enemies. There are many areas we can work together in. Furthermore, now that you're an instructor, with our relationship, we'll definitely have priority in your lessons. That's right. Even if you don't join us, we'll still be friends. Third brother, when you're teaching us, don't hold back. Exclaimed Zhong Ling. Long Chen smiled. Drinking some wine, he said, All of you are quite talented. But you're all greenhouse flowers. It's not just you. All the disciples that I've seen in this academy are the same. Your experiences decide your power. Do you really want to become strong? Of course we want to become strong. Zhong Ling clenched her little fists. Why do you want to become stronger? Asked Long Chen solemnly. I don't want to be bullied. Then how great is your motivation? I'll do whatever it takes, said Zhong Ling. All right then. Long Chen sighed. Third brother, what is it? Did I answer wrong? Asked Zhong Ling worriedly. Every person has their own answers. There is no right or wrong. Perhaps one day you will experience true pain, then you will understand why you cultivate. Long Chen looked out the window, pain in his eyes. When he looked at Zhong Ling and the others, it felt like he was seeing himself in his youth. Perhaps the price for getting stronger was to lose everything that you had. 3 days later, accompanied by Mu Qingyun and the others, Long Chen headed toward the God Institute's main palace for the official ceremony of his new position. As soon as he appeared, countless sharp gazes fell toward him. They were like blades trying to stab through him. There was a ceremony to officially bestow titles to the new instructors every 3 months, and Long Chen's luck wasn't bad. He was promoted just a few days before the ceremony. If he missed it, it would take another 3 months. This ceremony was quite significant. Many of the disciples of the God Institute came to watch, especially the new ones. One reason was to get a look at these new instructors, but the main thing was to decide which instructors' lessons they would buy with their money. There were millions of disciples present. It was a veritable sea of people. However, all these people didn't dare to make a sound. At the front of the palace was a large stage with 3 levels. At the bottom were 9 positions, at the middle were 3 positions, and the highest only had 1 position. The 9 people at the bottom were the human-ranked instructors. At the middle were the Earth Masters, and at the very top was the kindly Heaven Master Yunyang. It was said that there were over 8,000 instructors in the God Institute. They had 580 at the human rank, 36 at the Earth rank, and only 4 at the Heaven rank. Mortal-ranked instructors were limitless, but rising in rank was extremely difficult. There were strict requirements, and the numbers didn't change. In order to take the test to be a human-ranked instructor, you needed to squeeze out the last-place human-ranked instructor. The Earth rank was the same. As for the Heaven rank, well, at that level, Mu Qingyun wasn't qualified to know the inner details. The human, Earth, and Heaven Masters that had appeared now were all existences with high statuses. However, Long Chen noticed that other than Heaven Master Yunyang, the others didn't seem too friendly with him. In fact, some of them were glaring at him with clear hostility. Long Chen, make sure to control your temper. This ceremony is actually another kind of exam. If you fail, you might lose your qualifications. Be careful, whispered Mu Qingyun. I'll do my best. Long Chen nodded. Control? If he could control himself, he wouldn't be Long Chen. If things went well, then good. If they didn't, then he would think of something else. Mu Qingyun had to join the crowd as a disciple, so she was only able to send him to this point. She then watched as Long Chen stepped forward on his own. Who is that? His mortal chi is so strong. Is he a disciple? Curious. If his mortal chi is so dense, how did he pass the exam to enter the God Institute? Does he have connections? But even then, the cheating is far too obvious. Quite a few people spoke up when they saw him. They were also newcomers, and many of them didn't even know Mu Qingyun's name. They were simply astonished that someone with such dense mortal chi had passed the exam to enter the God Institute. The God Institute's normal requirements were for someone to have expelled at least 70% of their mortal chi. Only then were they qualified to join. However, Long Chen's mortal chi was so dense that it was clear he hadn't even expelled 30% of it. For him to appear here, it astonished countless people. They also felt disappointment in the God Institute's examinations. Although they had also seen other kinds of cheating along the way, they had never seen it be so blatant. What is he doing? He's walking toward the stage? Just at that moment, an uproar arose. They saw Long Chen walk to where the other instructors were. In front of their dumbfounded gazes, he stood with them. If Long Chen joined the God Institute as a disciple through his connections, then fine. But to become an instructor? Just what kind of flagrant cheating was that? If you novices don't know anything, then don't prattle. Do you know who that person is? That's the most vicious newcomer in thousands of years. If you keep blindly talking about him, you might cause a calamity to descend upon yourself, said one person to those questioning disciples. Senior apprentice brother, is there some story behind this? Asked one person curiously. A story? It's practically a legend. That black-robed senior apprentice brother is surnamed Long. His given name is Chen, and he sometimes calls himself Master Long San. He ascended from the lower plane. When he arrived in the immortal world, he came to the academy to register. He found this process dislikable, so he directly became a worker. In just a few days, he became a high-level worker and qualified to take the exam to be a disciple, saving a huge amount of time. He passed the Pill Institute's exam with full marks, but then on the first day of classes, he beat up an instructor. Despite that, he was only disciplined by taking away some rewards for new probationary disciples. He then went to the God Institute to take the trial to become an instructor there, passing with full marks in all trials once more. When someone tried to contest him, he killed the expert ranked 97 on the human rankings. When he stood trial for this, he also beat up the disciplinary elder. Even the third-rank Zhong Changxing was slapped in the face and didn't dare to retaliate. Furthermore, one of the 4 pillars of the God Institute, the Divine Lightning Elder, called him brother at first sight. 2 days ago, a group of idiots from the Prime Glory Alliance used their flying boat to smash into him, enraging him. Master Long Sen almost killed all of them. A boat of people almost went to see a Yama king. Tell me, do you think such a figure is someone that you can comment on? Wherever there were people, there was gossip. Some people even specialized in this area. Long Chen wasn't aware that in just a few short days, his name had spread throughout the entire God Institute. Only some newcomers who had just passed the exams were still in the dark about him. At this moment, many people had already heard his story. 1 person passed it to 10, 10 passed it to 100, until everyone heard it. These fresh newcomers were all stunned upon hearing this story. This person was absolutely vicious. Originally, they had thought that Long Chen had used his connections to reach this point. But even then, even if he had used a backdoor, that required a certain power and guts. He beat up an instructor on his very first day? Just how heaven-defying were his guts? In truth, the reason Long Chen's name spread so quickly was also thanks to Mu Qingyun and the others' efforts. Although Long Chen didn't join their unfettered alliance, he remained friends with them. Hence, the greater his fame, the more that they would benefit. Thus, when outsiders asked them what had happened to them, they didn't hold anything back. They explained it all in great detail. They were friends, while the Prime Glory Alliance had drawn Long Chen's ire multiple times now. They were definitely going to be enemies. Since that was the case, the greater Long Chen's name, the greater of an impact it would have on the Prime Glory Alliance, and the more beneficial it would be to the unfettered alliance. Uproars continued to rise throughout the crowd as people explained to the newcomers just how terrifying Long Chen was. Mu Qingyun smiled slightly. It was as if she was watching a new star rise within the God Institute. The ceremony has commenced. Mortal-ranked instructors, step forward. It's time for the final test. The final test? Upon hearing someone shout that, quite a few expressions changed. Long Chen was surprised. He noticed that a significant portion of the mortal-ranked instructors standing with him looked worried by this. Long Chen was unaware that this was different from past ceremonies. In the past, it was just the human-ranked instructors asking some questions, while the Earth Masters graded them. As for the Heaven Masters, they were only there to confer the official status plates. They had never heard of a final test. There were over 200 people standing with Long Chen, and almost half of their expressions changed. This also included some of the human and earth-ranked instructors. At this moment, Heaven Master Yun Yang smiled and said, "According to the reports that we received from disciples, some of our mortal-ranked instructors were abusing their positions. Moreover, some new disciples only passed due to their connections with these corrupt instructors. Even a single bad apple can spoil the entire bunch, and this damages the prestige of the academy. Of course, we can't simply believe people's words, but in order to ensure the longevity of the academy, I feel like an investigation is a must to determine everyone's innocence." Long Chen pondered these words. All the God Institute's higher-ups seemed to possess their own wisdom and foresight. Had he been fooled by what he had seen on the surface? "Zhao Yong, step forward for the test," announced a law enforcement disciple, reading off of a scroll. That Zhao Yang stepped forward. As soon as he pressed his hand against the testing stones, startled cries rang out. 107. He's already 107 years old. Someone over 80 isn't allowed to take the test to become an instructor. There was an age limit on new mortal-ranked instructors. That was because these new instructors had to continue their own cultivation and study in order to progress to the human, earth, and heaven ranks. Someone who had lost their sharpness and their drive was unacceptable for this position. It was because the God Institute did not wish to spend so many resources on mortal-ranked instructors with no future prospects. As the very first one to be tested was revealed to be cheating, it caused quite an uproar. That Zhao Yang was filled with disbelief. He began to sweat and he clenched his hand. At this moment, the law enforcement disciple grabbed Zhao Yang's wrist, forcing his hand open. A tiny crystal then appeared, twinkling with a blood-colored light. Bloodbone rune. It's often used for cheating age tests. Did you think you would be able to slip through this time? Sneered the law enforcement disciple. An Earth Master stood and shouted angrily, "How brazen! You dare to cheat! Have him dash." Instructor Mingzhe, "Don't be anxious. Let them continue," said Heaven Master Yunyang. That Earth Master Mingzhe could only sit. Long Chen then looked at Mingzhe and smiled slightly. This fellow's guilt was clear to him. Hence, the problem probably wasn't as simple as had been announced. The test once more continued. They were the same tests as before, but now they were held for everyone to see. Since everyone could clearly see the testing process, there was no way to cheat. 3 people were unable to lift the heavy spear, while the pellet and wooden puppet tests were even more chaotic. Half the people who had supposedly passed these exams now failed to meet the requirements. The disciples were in an uproar. As for the instructors on the stage, they were also growing uneasy. That instructor Mingzhe said, "Heaven Master, these people are too hateful. They must be severely punished. But carrying out these tests here isn't good for the image of the God Institute." If the institute head were to learn of it, Heaven Master Yunyang asked, "What image? Does the God Institute have a certain image? That doesn't matter. There is nothing about the God Institute that cannot be shown to everyone. If we made a mistake, then we must admit it and correct it. Concealing it would be wrong, don't you think?" Yes, Heaven Master is correct. Mingzhe might be a respected Earth Master, but his status was clearly not enough in front of Heaven Master Yunyang. Seeing Mingzhe's unease, Long Chen smiled with ridicule. This Mingzhe was definitely aware of this corruption and cheating. If the investigation pursued who had helped these people, he would probably be exposed. Other instructors on stage also acted calm on the surface, but their unease did not escape Long Chen. Long Chen laughed inside and looked at Heaven Master Yunyang. The latter was silently removing a tumor. As expected, upon reaching that level, there was not one incapable person. This was also appropriate. If this corruption continued, it would probably reach all the way to the foundation of the entire academy. At this moment, Long Chen's turn arrived. He easily picked up the spear, causing quite a few people to cry out in shock. That spear was shockingly heavy, yet Long Chen picked it up like nothing. Let alone the disciples, even the other instructors were dumbfounded. Just how powerful was his physical body? If Long Chen was a large muscular man, perhaps they would find it comprehensible. But Long Chen didn't look so big. Next was the pellet dodging and striking the wooden puppets. Long Chen gracefully passed through them. That easy appearance of his drew out shocked cries from countless disciples. Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu also cheered loudly for him. Although they heard that he had passed with full marks, personally witnessing it was another thing. Long Chen passed through without pause. The pellets and puppets were unable to touch even his clothes. Although there had been people who passed with full marks in this exam before, they were still very few in number. Furthermore, they had not done it as easily as Long Chen. Luck had also been a factor. On the other hand, Long Chen had passed with full marks twice, and while looking extremely at ease at that already showed everyone what absolute power was. Even Heaven Master Yunyang was moved. From the first moment he had seen Long Chen, he had known that Long Chen was an extremely powerful person. That sharp gaze of his was concealing a frightening killing intent, so his battle experience had to be immense. However, when Heaven Master Yunyang personally watched Long Chen pass, he knew that the latter hadn't used any supreme battle skills or techniques. Instead, it seemed that the instincts of the battlefield had merged with his soul, stunning the Heaven Master. It seems that the God Institute has picked up a treasure. This has to be reported to the Institute head. Heaven Master Yunyang couldn't stop himself from smiling. When Long Chen passed the exam, all the disciples exploded in cheers. They had never seen such a suave and graceful movement art. That was Long Chen's intention. After all, if he wanted to do well in this academy, being blindly low-key was not the answer. Only by showing his power would the academy view him favorably, and only then would they be inclined to give him more resources. This opportunity was his best chance to show off a bit. However, even though he perfectly revealed his power, he didn't appear to be intentionally showing off. His indifferent display of power coincidentally manifested the arrogance of a low-key expert. Even his tattered black robes didn't cover up his heroic air at this moment. He appeared especially conspicuous, as every other disciple present was wearing white robes. The image of Long Chen passing so easily was particularly stimulating due to just how many people failed wretchedly before him. Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu's throats were worn out from the shouting, but they continued to cheer. In the end, everyone finished the tests. Half of them were caught and suspected of cheating. However, for some of them, there was no proof that they had previously cheated, as perhaps they had passed through luck. Thus, they were all simply taken away for further investigation. The remaining people had passed. However, they weren't smiling. Compared to Long Chen, their displays were terrible even though they had passed. Following that, Heaven Master Yun Yang distributed the tablets and robes to the new instructors. This symbolized that they were officially instructors of the God Institute and would be given the appropriate fame and fortune. However, when it was Long Chen's turn, he didn't receive them. Instead, he said, "Heaven Master, this junior has a request." "Oh, what is it?" asked Heaven Master Yun Yang. "Is it possible for me to continue wearing my clothes rather than the instructor robes?" asked Long Chen. "How brazen! You've just been promoted. How dare you make such a rude request? These robes are a symbol of an instructor's status and image. Instructors must wear their robes and status badge at all times according to the God Institute's rules. Are you trying to change the rules of the Institute?" shouted Earth Master Ming Zhe. Long Chen frowned. Was this Ming Zhe an idiot? He himself was not free from his plight yet, but he had come to find trouble for him? If that's the case, then this junior must regretfully give up on being an instructor. "I will return to the Pill Institute to cultivate," said Long Chen. These robes of his were important to him. He would not switch them, nor would he wear some other color. Black was the only color he liked to wear. When Long Chen said this, everyone was stunned. What was going on? The robes that instructors were bestowed on were made of the best materials. As for Long Chen's black robes, they were made of materials from the mortal world and were already badly damaged. They didn't look much better than the clothes of a beggar. Would he really give up on becoming an instructor because of those robes? Was he mad? Heaven Master Yun Yang smiled and handed Long Chen the badge. He didn't say whether it was all right or not, so Long Chen simply took the badge. "Heaven Master, this pampered brat is completely ignoring the rules. If we allow such a person to raise our disciples, won't the entire God Institute be flipped on its head? We can't support such an unhealthy influence," cried out Ming Zhe. Long Chen's sword suddenly came out of its sheath. A drop of blood dripped onto his new badge, and the badge flew toward Ming Zhe. "I, Long Chen, use my status as instructor to challenge you to a life and death match. If I don't cut off your head within 3 exchanges, I will personally cut off my own head. Do you dare to accept?" Long Chen shouted thunderously, his voice full of bloody killing intent. Ming Zhe saw the badge flying toward him, and without even thinking about it, he caught it. However, as soon as he did, his expression changed. There was a rule in the God Institute. If 2 people had some irreconcilable enmity between them, a blood duel could be issued between them. The challenged party could accept or decline. If the challenger threw out their bloody badge, the challenge was officially accepted if the challenged party received it. In a moment of muddle-headedness, he had caught Long Chen's badge. Hence, everything fell deathly silent. "You accept my challenge? Then I have to ask Heaven Master Yun Yang to bear witness to our duel. Let us have a life and death battle right here right now," said Long Chen coldly. Long Chen didn't mind killing Ming Zhe right here as the latter had repeatedly targeted him. If he could kill Ming Zhe, it would definitely show his prestige. After experiencing the cruel destruction of the martial heaven continent, Long Chen knew just how important time was. He was not intending on wasting any time being dragged down by brainless people. Every bit of time wasted was losing a chance to get stronger. When the time came, the price would have to be paid. Back then, that mysterious voice had been constantly pressing him onward. telling him to hurry up. Long Chen had never known what its intent was. However, after the battle of the Martial Heaven continent, he hated that he had wasted so much time. If he was given another chance, he wouldn't waste the slightest chance. Perhaps then the Martial Heaven continent wouldn't be destroyed, and so many people wouldn't be dead. After ascending, he had sworn not to waste any time. However, there were always people trying to slow him down and block his path. Hence, the current Long Chen had placed Ming Zhe on his list of people to kill. Although Ming Zhe's aura was powerful, with his realm being who knew how much higher than Long Chen's, he was nothing more than a pencil pusher, not a true fighter. Hence, Long Chen was confident in killing him. Both the disciples and the other instructors were dumbfounded. This Long Chen was terrifying. If he didn't kill this Earth Master in 3 moves, he would kill himself? That was too ruthless, wasn't it? Ming Zhe panicked. Looking at Long Chen's icy gaze, he felt like a primordial beast was staring at him. His heart almost leaped out of his chest. The reason why Ming Zhe could reach his current level of prestige was because back then, he had accumulated a great deal of experience and knowledge. However, after becoming an Earth Master, he had grown comfortable. It was unknown just how many years it had been since he last fought with someone. Now he was afraid. What, are you regretting receiving my badge? If you want to renege, according to the God Institute's rules, you have to scram. Either fight or scram, your choice, said Long Chen. Everyone's hearts pounded. They stared at Ming Zhe. A life and death battle between 2 instructors. Perhaps in the entire history of the God Institute, such a thing had only occurred a few times. No. Long Chen pointed his sword at Ming Zhe, and an invisible mental pressure suddenly locked down on him, causing Ming Zhe's hair to stand on end. This mental pressure was not related to spiritual strength. It was a kind of will, a determination to kill. This will of Long Chen's had been tempered through endless slaughter. Ming Zhe had never experienced such a bloody battle in all his life. Hence, all his terror was dragged out of his heart by this pressure. Although he tried to suppress it, his face turned white. The terror in his eyes was not concealed in the slightest. Everyone could see it. An Earth Master was actually terrified? The disciples were in an uproar. Just what kind of past did Long Chen have? Why was he so terrifying? Was he really a newcomer? Heaven Master Yunyang said, Instructor Long Chen, since you've accepted the badge, your current status is that of an instructor. Although instructors can privately settle their disputes, such an extreme battle must go through an inquiry, and the institute head must approve of it. This direct challenge of yours can be declined by Instructor Ming Zhe. Furthermore, a life and death match requires irreconcilable enmity between the 2 sides. Your actions are not in accordance with the rules. Hearing this, Ming Zhe instantly relaxed, and a giant weight fell from his shoulders. However, he still said, Long Chen, since you're a youth, I won't quibble with you over your impetuous nature. Did you really think that I am afraid of a little fellow whose mortal chi has yet to regress? In the God Institute, all things are in accordance with the rules, especially for instructors. You must be an example, but who would follow the lead of someone as childish as you? How laughable. He said these things in order to save a bit of face. However, by saying this, he had accidentally told everyone that he was afraid. I, Long Chen, came to the High Firmament Academy to cultivate. I have many important things to do, and I don't have time to waste being stalled by idiots like you. I don't care if you have fights and competition with others, nor do I feel like interfering in your childish games. But anyone who blocks my cultivation is my enemy. Your foolishness can cost me my life in the future, so I will pay any price to eliminate you. Luckily, your life is spared this time, but that doesn't mean you'll be as lucky next time, said Long Chen icily. How brazen! You? Ming Zhe roared furiously, but this anger was nothing more than an act. He had to at least appear tough in front of everyone. Let us end this topic here. As instructors, every one of your actions can influence the futures of our disciples. Take note of your words and actions. Make sure you live up to your status as instructors, said Heaven Master Yunyang. He didn't want their conflict to grow any further. To Long Chen he said, "Wearing our robes is the rule of the God Institute. It cannot be changed easily. Otherwise, without rules, the entire academy would be thrown into chaos. However, rules are dead. People can change them. But whether or not they can be changed depends on the person's power. Long Chen, you are the person with the greatest potential that I've ever seen. As a heaven master, I don't wish for such a talent to leave. That would be a loss to the God Institute." Next you'll be saying, however, right? Long Chen smiled. Heaven Master Yun Yang smiled and nodded. However, rules are rules. They can't be changed randomly. If you want an exception, I can give you a chance. If you grasp this chance, you can maintain your style. Heaven Master. Ming Zhe and the others immediately shot up to indicate that they did not approve. If this backdoor was opened, wouldn't the God Institute be thrown into chaos? If the instructors were all given special treatments, how would they control the disciples? Heaven Master Yun Yang waved his hand, indicating for them to quiet down. He continued, "Instructor Ming Zhe has a group of elites under his administration. They are famous even within the entire academy." All the instructors looked at Ming Zhe oddly when they heard this. As for Ming Zhe, his face was like that of a pig. "Heaven Master, eh?" Ming Zhe tried to explain, but Heaven Master Yun Yang interrupted him. "This elite group is composed of the elites from various regions. They've been in the God Institute for over a year now, but their rate of advancement is only barely passable. This elite group has 36 people. If you can lead 10 of those people into the human tier divine rankings within 1 month, I will help you resolve your issue." At this moment, Long Chen clearly saw Ming Zhe's relaxed smile. That smile said everything. "It seems that this is not an easy task," said Long Chen. Heaven Master Yun Yang nodded. "Of course, if you wish to change a tradition stretching back tens of thousands of years, how can it be so easy? Otherwise, if the Institute head blames me, I would be in trouble." "All right, I'll try it," said Long Chen. "If you agree to this, you cannot renege." Heaven Master Yun Yang shook his head. "This is not a game. This relates to the prestige of the rules of the God Institute. If you accept and win, you can change the rules. If you fail, you will receive the punishment of the rules. You cannot just say you refuse to do it and leave. Otherwise, there would be no need for me to risk being punished by the Institute head to give you this chance. I've brought out the God Institute's sincerity. Don't you think you should bring out your sincerity as well? How old are these people? How is their aptitude? Their cultivation basis?" asked Long Chen. He was no fool. This task was definitely at a heaven-defying level of difficulty, or Ming Zhe wouldn't be smiling so pleased. They are all very young. They were accepted last year, and their talent is all above average. Their cultivation bases are in the late mortal transcendence realm. It's already been a year, but they remain in the late mortal transcendence realm. You wouldn't be asking me to teach a group of pigs, would you? Asked Long Chen. Heaven Master Yun Yang laughed. Of course not. However, these disciples all have certain backgrounds. They are all lazy. Despite not being strong themselves, they are quite temperamental. They are only here as gilding for the academy. In another month, that gilding period ends and they will leave. In many people's eyes, they are a group of people that cannot be saved. If you can lead a portion of them into the divine rankings, I will resolve your problem. Furthermore, if you succeed, I will ask the Institute head to give you greater privileges. As long as you have the ability, you can do anything. The God Institute always views people with talent favorably. But the precondition is that your talent must be enough to draw the attention of the Institute head. They're lazy and temperamental? I just so happen to be an expert at curing such illnesses. I accept this task. Long Chen smiled. He knew that this was an incredibly rare opportunity for him. Show me what students are so hard to teach. If they refuse to grow, I'll just break them down and rebuild them into something new. There was the slightest cruel glimmer in Long Chen's eyes at this moment. The ceremony was complete, and Long Chen was in the spotlight. His name truly resounded throughout the God Institute now. This time, the ceremony caused quite a stir within the God Institute, as so many people were revealed to be engaged in fraud. The entire investigator department would go through a thorough investigation, and anyone found to be participating in the fraud would face harsh penalties. It was unknown just how many people were implicated. But in any case, the cheating this time had enraged the higher-ups of the God Institute. The other matter that shook the God Institute was Long Chen's wager with Heaven Master Yunyang. He was taking over the elite group. In order to not wear the robes of an instructor, Long Chen had made such a wager. At first, many people didn't know what this elite group was. But no wall could block gossip. Eventually, it was revealed that this elite group was composed of useless people who simply came to consume the academy's resources. They were a group of hedonistic disciples from rich parents throughout the nearby prefectures. They refused to learn, so they were sent here to pursue their studies. In truth, they were only here because their parents had paid the academy so much money. These disciples didn't even usually attend classes. Their families had paid thousands of times the tuition fee in order to let them stay here. Their talent, aptitude, and cultivation bases weren't bad, but that wasn't their greatest attribute. Their greatest attribute was that they had money. Furthermore, they truly knew how to spend it. The people in the elite group were special within the academy. They were like a bunch of pigs being raised. In other words, even newcomer disciples that had just passed the exams could easily defeat them because their combat power was as flimsy as a piece of paper. These people weren't that well known before, but after this ceremony, everyone knew of this curious group. This elite group was viewed as a stain on the God Institute, but Heaven Master Yunyang had still exposed them. The God Institute had accepted them because of their money, but also because they didn't want to offend the various powers behind them. For Heaven Master Yunyang to expose them showed that he possessed quite a bit of daring. Many people were interested in whether or not Long Chen could really win such a wager. However, they were even more curious about why Long Chen felt such a desire not to wear the white instructor robes. It had to be known that those were clothes that countless people dreamed of being able to wear. It was a symbol of their status and position. Furthermore, Long Chen had never worn anything other than his tattered black robes. Was he simply trying to show that he was different from other people? It was unknown just how many people throughout the God Institute were discussing this matter. But as for Long Chen, he was now in his private 2-floor little house in the God Institute. Although it wasn't big, it was very refined. Compared to those people who squeezed into a single cave or people lying on beds that were like coffins, this was already a giant luxury. After Long Chen was given his own house and 20,000 immortal crystals, he returned to the Pill Institute and went to find the 7-star elder. I've heard what happened. Youngsters really have energy. It's a good thing. But you actually even dragged me into it. The 7-star elder looked at Long Chen with an odd smile. Long Chen knew that the 7-star elder was referring to how he had used the latter's name as a backer. Long Chen chortled, I shouldn't have used your name as a backer, but you also didn't tell me just how special that status plate you gave me is, so we're even, right? I'm here to return the money that you lent me and thank you. Long Chen returned the immortal crystals he had borrowed from the 7-star elder. He was truly grateful to him. Although this money was nothing to the 7-star elder, it had been necessary for Long Chen. In the High Firmament Academy, without any money, it was difficult to advance a single step. But just by borrowing the money for the registration fee, Long Chen took a giant leap forward. His future path was fully opened, and the key to that was the unremarkable money that the 7-star elder had lent him. The 7-star elder nodded and put away the immortal crystals. You are now an instructor of the God Institute. Furthermore, Heaven Master Yunyang has a high opinion of you. Will you still be a disciple of the Pill Institute? Long Chen smiled. I am a dual cultivator. I am an alchemist and a martial artist. The two sides will support each other, so I will have to run back to the Pill Institute quite a bit. However, the things in the Pill Institute are too expensive. I wonder if I can have a discount? On the way back, I bought a pill furnace, 3 of the lowest grade immortal flames, as well as some basic medicinal ingredients. Now I'm broke again. Just mentioning this made Long Chen feel aggrieved. The Pill Institute's disciples were given the most money, but the Pill Institute put the price of everything extremely high. That was why he couldn't buy whatever he wanted. You bought 3 low-grade immortal flames? What? Asked the 7-star elder. Most people would only buy a single immortal flame seed. The price for those was rather high, so it made sense why he would be broke after buying 3. I have a use for them, but it's not convenient for me to tell why. May I know if there is a way for disciples to buy medicinal wares at a discounted price? Asked Long Chen, not wanting to lie but also not wishing to say that he had bought them to nourish Linger. The Pill Institute's disciples must contribute to the Pill Institute in order to enjoy a discount. Newcomers are usually unable to reach the necessary levels. In this regard, our rules are different from the God Institute, answered the 7-star elder. Long Chen nodded. Sects did not exist to be charities, so resources were given to those who contributed. In other words, only if you could make a profit for the academy would the academy's resources fall into your hands easier. What is it? Do you have something you need? You can tell me. If it isn't against the rules of the Pill Institute, I don't mind helping you a bit, said the 7-star elder. I need the ingredients for many mortal ascension pills, but the money I have on hand isn't enough to buy them. I'm impatient to expel all my mortal chi, the 7-star elder frowned. I don't have such low-tier medicinal herbs. These kinds of introductory medicinal ingredients were things that a high-tier alchemist like the 7-star elder hadn't touched in years. With his status, a single word could bring in a flood of these low-tier medicinal ingredients, but that would be cheating for Long Chen and was not in accordance with the rules. Just like the God Institute, the Pill Institute cared about not breaking its rules. I know. Asking you for help with such a thing is inappropriate. As a Pill Institute's disciple, don't I have to go to the medicinal field once every 3 months to work? I was wondering if you could send me in advance so I could gain some experience with those ingredients. If I have a chance, I could even go hunting outside and pick a few herbs for my own use. That should be no problem, right? Asked Long Chen. That is naturally no problem. You can just go tomorrow. If you're in a rush, I can send you today as well. The 7-star elder smiled. Then I want to go right now. Many thanks, elder. Long Chen laughed and sped off. His sudden reaction was so fast that it caught the 7-star elder off guard. What he didn't know was that Long Chen was precisely waiting for this. What are you looking at? Do your work. Long Chen was solemnly identifying various immortal herbs when a supervisor at the side stared at him. He saw Long Chen put away an immortal plant. He then wanted to stop Long Chen, but he didn't dare to. Here, he was the chieftain in charge of the low-tier immortal plants. When disciples of the Pill Institute came, he usually shouted and ordered them around. However, when he saw Long Chen, he didn't dare to make a sound. Although Long Chen hadn't made as big of a ruckus here in the Pill Institute, the matter of him beating up others had reached them here. As for this supervisor, he was well aware of everything, which was why he was so scared. Someone that dared to beat up instructors and elders was not someone he wished to provoke. Due to this, despite feeling aggrieved, he didn't stop Long Chen from secretly taking the plants. He wanted to stop him, but he didn't dare to. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen, the precious medicines here are all accounted for. If 1 or 2 are missing, this junior brother will be able to cover it up. But if it's any more than that, the supervisor finally miserably spoke up. He was also afraid of taking responsibility for this matter. If it was someone else doing this, he would have started off cursing them and maybe even captured them. But he didn't dare to do the same to Long Chen. Oh, is that the case? All right, I won't make things hard on you. I'll only take one of every single plant, said Long Chen after a moment's thought. That person almost wept from joy, and he actually personally helped Long Chen dig out the plants. Through this, Long Chen learned that this medicinal field was actually a lucrative place. This supervisor had been here for many years. Using his authority, he had stealthily moved the medicinal plants here and there. As long as he maintained the quota, the higher-ups wouldn't investigate. By planting such extras here and there, he obtained some extra medicinal ingredients that entered his pocket. However, a portion of those gains were also sent up above as a kind of offering. It was simply a way to make sure that this position of his didn't fall into someone else's hands. That was another reason why he didn't dare to report Long Chen. If he did and everything was counted, he would be exposed. Fortunately, Long Chen truly did accept just taking one each. If that was the case, he could easily cover it up. This medicinal field was only for low-tier plants. There were over 400 different species, but altogether, it was possible to refine a complete mortal ascension pill from them. That was Long Chen's main goal. Every plant the supervisor dug out was respectfully sent to Long Chen. He then gave Long Chen a small sack as well. It went without saying that this was a bribe of immortal crystals. However, Long Chen didn't accept it. Instead, he told that person not to worry. Having helped him, Long Chen would find a way to repay the supervisor in the future if he had a chance. He wouldn't hurt his benefactor after achieving his goal. This person had wanted to pay Long Chen to keep his secret quiet, but Long Chen wasn't such a person. Once he was done with the medicinal field, Long Chen returned to the God Institute. In his new house, he went upstairs and entered the cultivation room. His mind then sank into the primal chaos space. The primal chaos space hadn't changed after he ascended to the immortal world. It was still quiet. However, at this time, there were two spheres of light. One was red, while one was violet. They were Linger and Linger's cores. In the final battle of the martial heaven continent, both of them had used up all their power and fallen into a slumber. It seemed that ascending to the immortal world had impacted them. They didn't wake up. Instead, they remained in this state. At this moment, there were 3 fist-sized flames burning around Linger's sphere. Those were immortal flames, also known as immortal spirit flames. There were all kinds of them, and he had bought them in order to nourish Linger. These immortal flames that he had bought were flame seeds condensed by formations from the flame energy within heaven and earth. These were the lowest level immortal flames, but despite that, they were still stronger than his inverse Tao water spirit flame, which was ranked 1 on the earth flame rankings. There was a qualitative difference between them that made it impossible to compare them. The mortal world's flames were unable to remain lit in the immortal world. This was also why Linger remained in slumber. However, by seeing Linger, Linger, the heaven-flipping seal, the demon moon furnace, and the moon and star refining furnace all in slumber, he could conclude that the primal chaos space was linked to the immortal world. Although the primal chaos space hadn't changed, if it was truly an isolated space, they would also be isolated and wouldn't be impacted by the immortal world's laws. Long Chen's original forest and medicinal plants had all been destroyed. Other than the yin-yang immortal grass, the rest had all died. Originally, he had thought that he had overdrawn their life energy to the point that even replenishing that life energy afterward wasn't enough to revive them. However, when he looked at the heavenly Tao tree, he saw that while its fruit had completely vanished, the patterns on its leaves and their shape seemed to have changed in many almost unnoticeable ways. The primal chaos space had to have gone through a silent transformation. Fortunately, its abilities hadn't been sealed. The pits of the various fruits that he had consumed were already growing. There were tiny saplings growing out of the ground. He then transplanted the immortal plants that he had just gained. They flourished here. Long Chen quickly grew his own medicinal field again. Regretfully, he did not possess immortal spiritual energy, and his spiritual yuan was sealed in the immortal world. Without the immortal spiritual energy of the immortal world, he couldn't quicken the rate of growth inside of the primal chaos space. Otherwise, he would be able to expedite the growth of these immortal plants. The current Long Chen was truly waiting for many things to be done. However, right now, the most urgent one was to awaken Linger. As long as Linger awoke, he could refine pills. Medicinal pills were the fastest way for him to expel his mortal qi. Suddenly, Linger's sphere quivered and Long Chen was delighted. He then sent his spiritual strength into the sphere, and finally there was a spiritual fluctuation from Linger. Linger had awoken. Rather than passively absorbing the immortal flame seeds, she was actively absorbing their power to strengthen herself. However, even then she was absorbing them very carefully. After all, they were immortal flames, existences far stronger than her. She needed to refine them bit by bit. As the lowest level flames in the immortal world, These flames possessed almost no consciousness at all. That was why Long Chen wasn't worried about them devouring Linger. He supposed that low-grade flame seeds had their benefits. As Linger absorbed them, her power gradually rose. The image of a dragon gradually appeared within the sphere. Clearly, Linger had been reborn now that she had been brought to the immortal world, once more becoming Long. She had returned to her dragon state, and to revert to a human form would take a long time. This was almost equivalent to a kind of nirvanic rebirth. Fortunately, Long's intelligence remained. Cultivating wouldn't be difficult in the future. After 2 hours, the 3 flame seeds rapidly dimmed, and a foot-long flame dragon appeared in Long Chen's hand. Long then rubbed Long Chen's thumb with her head. Long Chen smiled and rubbed the flame dragon. No rush. You're still too weak, and the immortal world's laws are binding you. You can't speak yet, but we can still communicate spiritually. Long Chen took out a bronze pill furnace. This was the only pill furnace that he could use at the moment. Let's first refine a furnace of pills and see what happens. This is my first step towards sweeping through the immortal world. Upon looking at the pill furnace, his old confidence returned. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.